and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I'll be your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, Brad Ellis.
Hi.
Ben Moore.
Hello.
My studio-tastic co-moderator, Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello.
And making it all happen in the control room, Isla Hink.
Hi.
Yes, we are back. We don't have headphones on now, which we were all saying is very bizarre. It's strange, not only just with the podcast we've been doing it previously and last week, but just after E3. It's strange to be free. Distinguished guests, we are here to discuss some of the biggest headlines in the world of video games, but before we do that, we must first answer for all of the mistakes that we made last week. Isla, begin corrections music, please.
Brandon, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think this podcast is going to have extra good energy because the Allies and myself were playing Guilty Gear Strive right before it.
Yeah.
And it just feels good playing games locally together again.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different vibe.
True.
It is. It's super
I want
different.
I want to overcome that wall that was between us for 13 months, but it's a completely different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Did the corrections music start?
I changed the lights. I forget if I'm supposed to go like boop,
It's up to you.
boop.
Just shut off the lights. Podcast in the darkness.
I think that last one hit. It's pronounced Exilia, right?
Cross Ilia.
Exilia? Do you say Zilia?
I
Tails.
say Zilia.
Well,
but-
Tales of Xillia.
So many corrections there. Said it's pronounced Exilia and had some very specific issues with things that Damiani had described
Goddamn
about Exilia.
weebs.
So thank you for that. There's also some holdouts still, one or two for Koch Media. And,
Got it.
If you're still frustrated, we're pronouncing Koch wrong.
Catch.
You can go to the Koch media presentation they did last week where they say Koch several times. Get in those comments, let them know that they're pronouncing it wrong. And we can make a difference. End corrections music, please.
I found a poll from 7 years ago, and it looks like it's pretty spread on how to pronounce Exilia.
Ah,
39% say Exilia,
Okay.
and Zilia is 28%.
It's pretty close.
Gotta be honest, I don't care that much.
yep. End that corrections music if you haven't already.
Aboo.
Abooga. E3 2021 in the books.
Yeah.
I know that because E3 had a stream that ended.
Right.
Assuming that's the only way we would know.
Correct.
If E3 was actually over, there was
Right.
no convention, there was no actual physical place to go through, but there were events.
Yeah. Yeah. In past years, you know E3 is over because the lights come on and like the whole place just looks like a warehouse all of a sudden.
Right.
Yep.
You don't have to go
They
home.
start rolling up those carpets before you get out the door.
Yes,
true.
Stay there. Some carpets are really good. Ben, did you like E3? Did it feel
Yeah.
like E3 as you take a sip? Do you want to dive into that water and I can go to Brad?
It's funny because like I would have conversations with my wife every night after I came home about E3, and I was like, you know, I've had a great time with the Allies, but I think I've been pretty underwhelmed with E3 as a whole. The only conference to me there I was like, this is really just hitting for me was Nintendo. That really felt it. I don't know if it was because I was on the desk or what it was, or if it was just the announcements, but that was like kind of my E3 moment. There were plenty of things that I enjoyed, great things that I can't wait to check out. But I would say, you know, on the whole, underwhelmed by E3.
You were surprised, Blood, because you kept bringing up during the festivities that, you know, a lot of these companies did not have the amount of time they normally would, you know, for that following a, you know, locking down the calendar dates for an E3, letting people know that this is going to happen.
Right.
You know, did it feel last minute throughout or you know, like in Ben's case, were there some people that overcame all of that, like Nintendo?
I think Nintendo was in a position where they were going to do something whether E3 did something or not. I think some of the stuff like Capcom, it felt like, well, we have some trailers, so I guess we'll film some stuff to tie them all together. You know, and so it really felt like for whatever reason, you know, E3 had to put a show together.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to convince publishers to get on board. And so some of these things that, you know, like Capcom's never done presentations like that. You know, like I think Damiani's mentioned it felt a lot like one of their Comic-Con presentations. And so they kind of, it's like they almost like went to that. It's like, okay, we sort of know how to do this, but it's not what people expect out of E3 at all.
Speaking of Capcom, and this is not an insult to esports at all, but it was not the time for
Not the time
it
and
was
way
not the
too
time.
long.
Way too long. It
It was
almost
the
felt
end
like
as well. That was the
Yeah,
finale.
that was the
of
crunch.
it almost feels like when you like go and get a deal on vacation and they're like, but we have to tell you about this timeshare.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what
Oh
it
my
felt
God.
like. Yeah.
Street Fighter V's timeshare now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never did watch the Koch presentation. I heard it was bad. And then Gearbox just
Oh my God.
Randy Pitchford running around a movie set that doesn't want him.
We will not be covering the Gearbox presentation in detail. We did not react to absolutely everything, so there will be little corners of E3 that you might have checked out that we are not going to specifically cover on this episode.
This is not hyperbole. This is just fact. I have not seen all E3 conferences, but I've seen a whole hell of a lot. That's one of the worst showings I've ever seen at E3.
Just not in a fun way.
Not even in a fun way.
I was just annoyed.
Not fun at all. There was no fun to be had. All I expected was gameplay of Wonderland. Seemed obvious.
Right.
Seemed cool. Can't wait to check out your new game that you just announced. Nothing. It was nothing. I want that time back. It was miserable.
That's a pretty safe tee up because we can get into Gearbox now to have the announcement before their own event, and then now this is when I'm tuning into it because like we've had the Battlefield announcement, and we're probably going to get more.
Right,
in
Battlefield did
EA's
exactly
next
that.
month,
Right, they did this sort of like setup of like, okay, here's your story trailer, and then later on here's your gameplay trailer. And it's kind of annoying because they like. You could do 2 previews, and like we're not going to do 2 previews.
Well, and to like add insult to injury, they thought it was funny when they had the person being like, "Oh, can we talk about that yet?" "Oh, nope, not yet." And it's like, "Nope, now's the time to talk about it." All they said was like, "Goblins and wyverns are in our fantasy game." I couldn't believe it.
And showed the same trailer.
Yeah, for Gearbox, yeah.
Which I love. Brad, I'm seeing the title match, the final bout of E3 I'm seeing is between Xbox and Nintendo. A lot of people think Xbox had the best presentation. Going back through, Xbox certainly had a lot of big stuff to show. Before we get into some of the bigger events, is there a clear winner for you between the two?
Between the two?
Yeah.
For my personal taste, it's Nintendo, just because they showed Zelda, so that's going to put me over the moon. But I think Microsoft did a pretty good job. Just the only thing with Microsoft, it was a lot of CG trailers.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is like
And
Nintendo
showed
made
a lot
it
of
feel like
gameplay.
E3 with Treehouse.
Yep.
It really made a difference for them to be showing gameplay throughout the Direct and then to have like just going to load up on gameplay right now. And Xbox had a little bit of that with Forza, but they did so much stuff, even with Halo. It was,
yeah.
So I want to talk
the
about
Halo
Halo.
presentation was so weird. It's like you just like fumbled the ball and said, "Okay, we're gonna delay the game for a year." And now the next time we see the game, it's just random cutscene with the next Cortana. Like what?
Well, in a way, I do think Halo Infinite had a good showing, certainly a much stronger showing than it had in 2019. And I think what they showed off in multiplayer and the things that they detailed about
multiplayer was a good part.
was good. But I totally agree with Blood that with the tumultuous ride that Halo Infinite has been, I am shocked that we didn't get a bigger blowout and specifically didn't get more detail on the campaign. But though I think you also mentioned this at the beginning, I thought Forza Horizon 5 showed super well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Stalker 2 showed super well.
And
Boy,
Stalker 2 showed some gameplay as well.
Yeah. I kind of in the same way for Halo. I expected to see more of Starfield than we did.
yeah.
Maybe not exactly like a ton. I didn't expect like a Fallout 4 sort of presentation, but it felt pretty thin, especially for leading off the show, and especially kind of where they're targeting and how long they've been working
some
on it.
dude walking around on the moon or something and shooting an alien or something.
Yeah,
Right.
I just felt it's a little thin.
This was an interesting E3 in terms of accessibility to the actual games that we would normally check out. Like that was a major thing. It was funny because I feel that like I kind of have a well-balanced diet at E3 of like talking to all of you about game impressions, being at the show, going to appointments, checking out demos, seeing trailers, like all different types of stimulation going on during E3. This was literally just Johnny Mnemonic, plug the cable into my brain, just upload as much game announcements and gameplay and stuff like that. Do you miss was it odd? Obviously, not playing games, but was it a major component that during E3 you were like, this just doesn't
I mean,
feel
it
right?
sucks not being able to play games when you see all these, because we see all these games at this thing and we're like, man, if we were at E3, we'd be playing that right now.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm furious about Elden Ring. I would have been playing that.
there's no question, because like I've seen some people kind of comparing our commentary this year to previous E3s, and that's understandable and natural, but it's like being at E3 and some of the access that you get to some of those demos, it's like there'd be demos at E3 I feel like I could talk about for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just you can truly go into like another ocean of depth when you get hands-on time, and you know you can not only have questions about something, which you get when you watch trailers, but you actually have the agency to answer those questions. And so, yeah, especially as E3 went on, I really was missing just being able to like give that information to the people. And on top of that, you know, the other thing that we do typically at E3 is we get to highlight things that maybe are being overlooked, right? Something that we got to see on the show floor that maybe didn't get a lot of attention otherwise, and that's always fun to do. And I think that's harder to do when you're just watching, you know. We probably watched, like hundreds of trailers? I don't know. I think
yeah.
Oh my goodness!
You know,
Yeah, we have.
There were
yeah.
75 announcements in the Wholesome Direct alone. So yes, we topped that out. We bring up an interesting point, which is, and it's kind of what I want to do in this podcast. And I apologize to viewers and listeners if this gets a little listy, but I think what really impressed me, and I saw a lot of people talking about this on Twitter, was it's kind of like the E3 of indies. You know, it was like it was kind of like an E3 that felt like other indie events because you had stuff like. Starfield, which didn't, show a heck of a lot. Halo Infinite, which didn't maybe show as much as expected. Capcom, Square Enix, like other people maybe thought was maybe announcing some things or showing some things. And then just as far as like the memories I think back on are a lot of these IPs that just came out of nowhere. A lot of the stuff that was really, really interesting. So in that same vein, Ben, I would like to raise as many of those up as possible. I've gone through each of these presentations and picked out the announcements from the updates. Again, Breath of the Wild 2 is very fun to see again, but there were specifically the announcements, the stuff we didn't know going into each of these events. And the clear winner on this table, are you with the crew for the Nintendo over Xbox opinion before we move into Nintendo?
Yeah, I think so. Not by like a gigantic margin or anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't say about a gigantic margin either.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was saying. It's like Nintendo, you had a lot more stuff where you saw gameplay. You really get to know what this game is, whereas with some of those Xbox games, like, neat idea. Are we going to see this game anytime soon?
I mean, I straight up wish each of them had a Treehouse event.
Oh
like,
my
it's
God.
so nice
Right.
to be
I
able
wish
to be like,
every big one did.
yeah.
Well, now that we're moving on to Nintendo, that was something I freely admit I have not watched a lot of Treehouse in my lifetime. It's like I'm always at the show.
Right.
And so that was nice. I wonder if there was anybody at home, where we were like, this is fascinating. That they're like, yeah, this is what we watch while you guys are
I'm
offline
sure.
every year.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Was it nice to share that with our community or like really take that in and as we have not in years past?
I think it's Treehouse is a little bit of a hit and miss in the fact that, like, no matter what, I'm grateful to see extended time for these games that aren't going to come out for a little while. But like specifically during the Advance Wars presentation, I was like, I'm not really getting anything from this. Like, you're kind of just sitting there playing Advance Wars and not really adding like a ton of meaningful commentary. Like, it was definitely there. I don't want to shorthand it, but
The banter, though,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sass
pretty
was there.
entertaining.
yeah, the sass was definitely entertaining, but it just like it just felt like it was in a weird position where it was like,
Right.
I'm not really sure how this is coming across to the uninitiated.
Kazuya from Tekken coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate,
Yes.
kicking off the presentation.
And
Next update on the 28th.
Everybody that's salty about it, like, sorry, but totally deserved.
Dude, it's a cool character to put in.
Yeah, it's
man.
absolutely a cool character.
I can't even comprehend it because, like, I'm not even a big Tekken fan, and it's just like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
I remember, I think it was Huber was sitting next to me during the presentation, and Huber kept nudging me when we were like, are we going to see Breath of the Wild today? And he was like, Metroid Dread would have been the end of this presentation if that was the big thing. Because they've already shown off Metroid Dread, we're definitely seeing Breath of the Wild too. And I was like, oh, okay, there's some logic there. The logic that I fell back on was I would be surprised if they had teased Ganondorf in the beginning of a Direct and did not give us some sort of
I would've
Zelda
been
payoff in
so
that Direct.
upset.
That would have been brutal. If we got a Zelda joke, and then that was it.
Sure.
I was like, okay, if they were brazen enough to show that off. the meme of Kazuya throwing them into the. So what
The
Tekken
volcano.
what Tekken is that from specifically?
Well, no, that's a history of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Heihachi threw Kazuya, and then Kazuya comes back and throws. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania.
Hell yeah.
1, 2, and Deluxe remastered for their 20th anniversary, October 5th, a very stacked month, October. Kind of a trend, actually. Mario Party's getting the same treatment, just kind of like, it's a new game. I gotta admit, I was
There's
confused.
a lot of people that are saying it feels very like reviving 2003 kind of vibes
Yep.
out of that conference.
Yep.
But it,
WarioWare is in there too.
Yeah.
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 But that's a new WarioWare game. But again, like that's at the time when WarioWare first showed up.
What, it just took... Oh, when it first showed up in the presentation, or when
No,
the
I'm
franchise
saying like
first showed up?
around that time frame, like some of these games that are
2003.
being remade.
Right.
WarioWare was also like new on the scene around that time.
And the same thing with Advance Wars, like it's really just the first and second
Mm-hmm.
game, redone. They said built from the ground up, definitely looks familiar. But getting back to Mario Party, did Super Mario Party hurt the franchise at all? Is this something where
No, I think it's done
no.
really well.
Mario Party is indestructible.
great?
Yeah.
It can, and it has, make absolute dog shit entries, just completely terrible, and be fine.
Power of Mario.
Yeah.
WarioWare, I'm excited about. I think that is a
Looks
franchise that should come back. I think that's a franchise that's really good for the Switch. You seemed, and just keep in mind, we have an episode of Friend Code. You can check out a lot of the stuff in detail. Damiani has his own takes on a lot of this Nintendo stuff.
Well,
will
we
breeze through
kept it pretty tight.
Zelda Metroid.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zelda, Metroid, and hit on a couple other things.
We don't need to go on and on about it, but I was kind of going off on Twitter today about it. Is like, I learned today that they're charging $60 for the Advance Wars,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
and I just
That,
think that is ridiculous.
I wish it was a 60, but I understand why it's 60 because it's Nintendo.
Right.
And
Oh
like,
yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
But
It's
everyone
just
else
weird
does this
because I
too.
feel like they've given lip service to, putting games out at different price points before. And obviously, like, when they had two different consoles, when they had, the home console and a handheld console, then the handheld console games always cost less. And so it feels like some of those things that you would have expected to have been on a 3DS or something, like, say, the Famicom Detective Club games, those are like, both of those games together are $60 and they're like $35 separately.
Yeah, but
And
Think
same thing
about-
with Advance Wars. It's like you could have done 40 for
yeah,
that game.
you could have, but think of Tropical Freeze and
Yeah,
like
but I don't think
Skyward
that's
Sword.
great. I don't think that's good
it's
either.
great either, but I'm just saying.
Unlike Tropical Freeze and especially Zelda, though, I think the thing that is frustrating is it's kind of similar to Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, where it's like, I know Virtua Fighter Ultimate Showdown was free on PS Plus, but it's like it's a series that has been dead for so long, like such a long time, and then it comes back and it's like, well, like this isn't great, and so because it's not great, it's not really doing a lot for people that are hungry for more, and it's not bringing in a lot of new fans, and so it doesn't feel like a super intelligent way to bring in a new audience. And I'm not saying the Advance Wars remake won't be well done. It very well could be, but the strategy that they're taking and the way that they're choosing to pursue this doesn't seem like it's really poised to captivate a new audience. It just doesn't seem like the most intelligent
Yes.
path forward.
I wonder if just because it's on Switch, they know it'll sell
Could be.
and it'll open up
Sure.
a huge audience.
Yeah.
Could be.
Like, we're going to bring this franchise back, but we better make money on this thing. This is not going to be like a test to see how popular this franchise is or if it'll...
Japanese companies love doing that,
If
though.
we want to Crash Bandicoot this thing,
They love coming out with something that, like, for one reason or another, it has a valid excuse for not doing, like, amazing, and then they just bury it. And so, yeah, I thought of Fire Emblem Awakening because at the time Fire Emblem Awakening came out, Fire Emblem was not crushing it financially the way that it is now. It was not the overwhelming success that it is now, where like Fire Emblem seems like it's going to go on forever. But what they did with Awakening is they aggressively transformed it. They added so many new mechanics. They brought people in. They made it more appealing to a broader audience, and it just felt like a really bold and aggressive move. And I'm not saying every single game needs to take the same path, but it's like there's a reason why these things blow up. It's like if you give them the time and the attention and the care and you really listen to your audience, that will pay off.
Yeah. But it's just like, I wonder how much they actually want to invest in some of these things, like time and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what's
I also
frustrating.
like, not that it will justify the full price or anything. Well, I mean, justify is a weird word because like those are great games; they're justified regardless. But it does sound like they do have some other features planned.
There is online.
Yeah, online and stuff like that. So I'm curious how that's all going to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And
All they really showed was 2 levels of the first Advance Wars game and like early levels.
right. And it's not out yet, so I could be eating my words and it comes out and it's like, no, this totally justifies itself. Like, should get this. There's maybe things that we don't know about yet, but I think I'm just especially cautious because I just recently reviewed Nocturne HD, and it was like this extremely infuriating position where it's like, no, this game is a classic, but this port feels like it could have been so much more. Like. It just doesn't feel like they did enough, and for what they're offering, they're overcharging, and it's frustrating to see that because you want to be able to say to people who are uninitiated or unfamiliar, it's like, no, like this is it, man, like this is so great, like this is definitely worth experiencing, or if you've already experienced this is well worth your money. You want to be able to say that.
It's funny because I look at some of these things and it's like, Super Monkey Ball, remastering the first 2 games, Advance Wars, building the first 2 games from the ground up, Superstars, which is, an upres of like Nintendo 64 content, but at the same time, like a collection of some of these old things.
The Mario
Party Superstars, yeah. So 5 boards and 100 mini games from the past. Just looking at it on paper, I think like, well, wait, but these are exciting announcements, but these are just them repurposing some old stuff compared to, again, not to like, inflame the Nintendo v Xbox war, but it's just interesting having these not necessarily be 100% new announcements, but still, and maybe not franchises that, I'm like really excited about, but it still got me excited during the Direct, it was still, even stuff like Cruise and Blast, I was like, yeah, I mean, these just seem like smart selections.
Cruise is a funny
things
one
that'll work really
because
well for the Switch.
It's funny to see another one come out, but at the same time, it's terrible.
Sure.
Well, I mean, like specifically Advance Wars, right? Who expected that? They've just straight up ignored Advance Wars for years and years and years and years, and then out of nowhere it just blossoms.
Yeah, they're
And
done.
so on some level, just seeing that acknowledgement is exciting.
I think Way Forward really probably pushed that to Nintendo.
Wait
Good
for
on
it,
you.
doing God's work.
Yeah, it could
Good on
be.
you.
Yeah.
I was really grateful to be next to Huber for when Fatal Frame Maiden of Black Water was announced, and like there was excitement for a second. Then he was like, "Oh wait, no, I reviewed this. It's not now."
Also excited that Not Trapped on Switch coming out on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Correct.
There you go. With photo mode.
But yeah, those are the announcements. Obviously, other than Metroid Dread, new Metroid game.
Dread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to go back to that moment where it said Metroid 5. And then, like, Samus was in a new suit in, like, a dark hallway, and my brain was like, what? That was fun. It's like, now I know a lot about this game. Now this game makes sense. Now Metroid 5, I get what they meant by the 5 in Metroid. Is there funky math on that one, or did they get that right?
There's no funky math. I mean, this is directly after Fusion, so... and from the stuff that they posted on the website already, they have a nice long blog.
So Zero Mission's like Metroid Zero, basically?
No,
Like it's
Zero
not-
Mission is a remake of the original game.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. And
So there
it's
are-
expanded, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's the debate I've been having with people in the comments. They're like, "Oh, it doesn't count as a new game, or does it? Yeah, it doesn't count as a new game because it just remade the first one." I'm like, "It's an entirely different game. Like, it has some of the same bosses.
Right.
It has the same story, which pretty much only existed in like the title screen of the first game.
Right, yeah.
But there's so much more story there. There's a whole other areas, like Ben said. There's a whole essentially post game compared to the original game of all kinds of new stuff they put in there. And so there's talk about Zero Mission as if it's not a new game. It's like, no, it's an entirely new game. It's an entirely different experience. There's a lot of people that put Zero Mission as the #1 Metroid game, and I don't know if I'm on that page. I'd probably still put Super Metroid there, but
It's very good.
when you compare to the original Metroid, that's a hard game to go back to.
Sure.
That is a difficult game to play, and it's definitely not a game you're going to play without a map,
Well,
or a player's guide.
and frankly, like, I wish that were more of a standard. Like, I'm so happy Blood is talking about Zero Mission because, it's not just a visual overhaul of Metroid 1. It's really taking that opportunity to be a completely new game.
It's reimagining, yeah.
Right. And like, whether you like it or prefer the original or whatever your opinion is, like, that is exciting, right? Like, that feels transformative in a way that really, like, entices you to check it out, I think.
Did you think you would see, not just this past week, but, when did you think you would see a return to 2D Metroid in this way?
There have been rumors, but I didn't think a return to 2D Metroid meant we would actually go post-fusion.
Yeah.
It has been so
another remake
long
or
since
something.
they've moved the timeline in any way, and they've just been doing spin-offs and things that supposedly happen in this pocket of time. Like the whole Prime trilogy takes place in one pocket, and Other M takes place in another pocket, and they just try to fill in these holes that
Zelda style.
kind of really don't exist.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised because it seemed like they were going to remake Fusion, and if you think about Emmy in Metroid Dread, that whole idea of being hunted kind of comes from Metroid Fusion. Like, that element is in it, and so I have to wonder if that project turned into a new 2D Metroid at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very curious. I really, really want to see, because they talk like they're going to do more of these blog posts as we get closer to release. I really want to see the original first two versions of this game.
Yeah.
Number one, because I want to compare things like the Emmys and see what concepts were there that are getting translated into this final form. And the other thing is, I just have this thing that like might just be in my head, but I want something to confirm it, because I feel like there was a year at E3 when I went to E3 and I saw a Nintendo booth and I saw like one of these reels that just like looped a bunch of games, and I saw a shot of this, but then like later on I'd go back and like it wasn't there anymore. So it's almost like they put it up there and then they pulled it, like no, don't show that now. And old Nintendo booths used to be like that. You used to play all kinds of stuff that was just like, yeah, we threw this together. We don't know if it'll ever be in a game, or if it will be a game. Like they're just, and sometimes multiple years I'd see like the same kind of like concept, and it'll be like reskinned to something else, like the stage debut that eventually became the Mii's. Like just, they used to have all kinds of weird stuff. They had like an official like GameCube screen. I think my first E3 that they were demoing Metroid Prime on. I was like, this is amazing. Somebody else put out one, but Nintendo never did.
Blood was showing me some old E3 photos last night, and what really caught my eye is that in the Twilight Princess booth, on the wall, there were like chains for tying up prisoners and just like blood spots. And it's like, whoa, okay, that's not the Nintendo I'm used to seeing. Yeah.
Well, and now that we're talking about Zelda, it was not an announcement. We still don't know the name of the sucker.
Right.
But wrapped it up with free-flowing hair, evil arm Zelda in various forms, various weapons and outfits. And we have reactions. We have there are many places at Easy Allies you can go for Brad's take on it. If you were to sum up your excitement,
what level?
Just in general, because today's another day. There was the day they announced it.
10,
There's the day after that.
10.
You're still feeling it?
Oh yeah, yeah, easy 10, no question. Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild 2 are like, boom.
Not just coming back, but where it is, just in terms of what you've seen. Because there's some shots in that trailer that I'm just like, that's a big, cool looking tank thing. That's a very quick shot. That's like about 2 seconds we got to look at that.
Right.
Thing. And so I'm just like, in one hand it goes by really quick, and on the other hand you're like, man. Poor fans are gonna be watching this trailer for like
We watched it a lot, the trailer.
Dissecting all of it.
Brad, how much influence do you think Breath of the Wild 2 will take from Genshin Impact?
80%.
Okay.
Yes. The soundtrack especially.
Brandon, we were talking about the treehouse earlier and somehow how like the vibes were weird. And during the Metroid Dread presentation, there would definitely be times where something cool would be going on in the background, but they kept saying like over and over again, wow, I can't believe the detail in these environments. And sometimes they would say that and be like, There's nothing going on in that environment.
like a 3DS
that is,
background?
yeah, that is like a super basic environment. Nothing is happening.
Well, the thing is, I wonder because these are specifically people that are working PR for Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I wonder if
Well,
these people
actually, I don't think that many of those were PR, but yeah.
but localization.
not necessarily like quote unquote PR, but in a press, in a marketing capacity to show off this stuff for Nintendo.
Yeah.
It is they are not the ones creating these games. It is on them to make these games look as good as they possibly can. And like I wonder if these people have been wanting to talk about this stuff forever. And so even the tiniest little detail or something that, only they and like 20 other people have been able to like share or talk about how interesting they think that is. Because some of that stuff. Well, you made some really good comparisons again. Franco, shout out to just like Ori and the Blind Forest and some other stuff you've seen run on Switch, and you're like, I'm not really super impressed, with some of the environments and stuff that I've seen,
Right.
which I didn't even think about until you mentioned that, and now that I've gone back to look at that gameplay. But I just think if you're a Metroid fan, I mean, win, hello, and that's
what I was like.
one of the big things we're going to get up to Xbox, after this, and Xbox has some huge announcements, a lot of indie games that are very, very interesting. We have something like Metroid comes out in October. Announcement out of nowhere. Franchise we didn't know was going to get any love that day. Tons of gameplay. More gameplay than I maybe wanted to see or was expecting to see.
They came back for a
did pretty
second
good.
round. They started and ended Treehouse with Metroid.
They were ready, and that's just such a it's such a good feeling. Rahul Masal on Patreon wants to know if we think Loft Wings will be present in Breath of the Wild 2. What are Loft Wings?
The Loft Wings are like the birds in Skyward Sword.
Yeah,
that you read on.
like the shoebill looking birds.
Yeah, that's what's on the shield, the Hylian shield, the red like bird thing on it. That's Link's Loft Wing
Cool.
from Skyward Sword.
Gamer fact.
It's an interesting question. I don't know if that they specifically will, but with so much sky stuff, you've got to think at some point there's got to be more than a glider.
Oh, sure.
sure.
Yeah.
Like
Loft Wing.
Yeah, whether it's a loft wing, whether
Robot
it's
loft
some
wing.
kind of wyvern, whether it's your own kind of
shit.
wings.
Harry or Jet.
Riding a wyvern
Yeah.
as Link would be cool.
Isla Top Gun crossover.
Yeah.
Could
Makes
be.
sense.
Yeah.
If you look at the lore, it makes sense.
You've got the whole like Rito clan. Maybe they get involved somehow. You can buddy up.
Yep. Need more of those. We're gonna need lots of wind gusts. As long as we're talking about Hyrule, Age of Calamity got their expansion pass Wave 1, which I believe we didn't know, which comes out on June 18th. We didn't have the specifics. I don't know if that's something that I shouldn't touch on a lot. I saw a lot of people being
Zelda
like,
bike.
a lot of people were
bike.
like, I thought maybe that would be more, or did you think that, did
I just
that
didn't
have a
get a
nice
clear
cozy place
picture
in the direct?
of a lot
Yeah, it
of
felt very hazy. I mean, they did show off some new things, but I've never gotten a chance to really get into that game, so it's kind of hard for me to connect the dots.
As someone who's played through that game and likes it quite a bit, I wish it didn't take up any time in the direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we will move on to Shin Megami Tensei 5, coming out on November 12th.
Oh, man. So funny.
And a lot of Shin Megami Tensei 5, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Mario Golf Super Rush, Monster Hunter Stories 2, all look fantastic. Stories 2 especially coming out to E3, Ben, the franchise I just did not
Looking nice.
know a lot about, and now I'm probably going to check out that demo. And
Somebody mentioned to me, I kept seeing this game, but I wasn't sold until I saw the gameplay demo in the Treehouse. And I think that that's such a good point because, if you have no idea, if you've never played Stories 1 or you're not invested in Monster Hunter universe, when you're like, it's a turn-based RPG Monster Hunter, it might be hard to conceptualize that. And so I think just being able to see it for such an extended time, how you move through the world, how the unique battle system works, all of that does wonders for it, for sure.
that Game & Watch, too. That's
The Zelda
Game &
one?
Watch.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only thing I was able to get pre-ordered.
Nice!
Still haven't gotten Metroid
Nice.
Dread Special Edition or the Amiibo, but
As the proud owner, all of you suckers are pre-ordering it, and hopefully they send us another one, because they sent us the
Mario one?
the Mario one, which
They probably will.
yay.
But
snag that?
I did snag that because that was a bit. I actually played Game & Watch back in the day, the OG Game & Watches.
Back in my day.
So just having that thing in my hands, it takes me back. And there's
1800s, man,
way
wild
more.
time.
I know it's those the good old days, as I like to call them. Way more on the Zelda thing than was on Mario. I think Mario was one
game, right? In the
one
Game &
in
Watch thing?
Lost Levels
Yeah.
and the clock. And this has three
thing
games
and a
plus
Game &
this.
Watch thing.
Oh, they have the Game & Watch game as well for Mario. But
Super minor nitpick that doesn't matter at all, but the Zelda 2 stopwatch that they have, the font for like the numbers is terrible.
Oh, they all.
you like look at it and you're like, wait, what is it?
I will never have that on.
Yeah.
If possible.
Um,
Easy skip.
That is incorrect. You're reviewing that clock. That's very important.
Yeah, 10.
I'm
Give
gonna
it
mark
10.
it down because of the clock.
Coming in to take the silver medal from Easy Allies E3 Awards. Not doing E3 Awards this
didn't
year.
talk about
Nothing to
SMT5.
play specifically. We did. We just got
It looks
updates.
good.
We didn't talk about golf either.
It looks real good.
We got updates.
Though here, I'll
Listen, I don't got much going for me. Okay, so I got to take
You don't
the
have
opportunity.
Here, I have a Ben Moore quote. The world will finally
The
understand.
world will finally understand. There
Yeah,
you go.
when I scroll down this list, I don't see any love going your way.
Okay. All right. All right.
Okay.
No. We don't want to lose too much steam before we get to Strangers in Paradise. But also, Life is Strange Remastered in True Colors coming to Nintendo Switch, which is great. September 10th. Really happy about that. Nintendo, this anime thing. No, don't do that. With
Right.
the anime
Tricked us.
tease with them on the train. And like,
Still a Square
Yeah.
Enix call, but yeah.
Never go full anime.
We thought it was a whole other game.
Oh,
yeah.
We were like, what is
Anime,
this
dude.
beautiful anime
Gross.
game?
It's so funny because like
he spent money on that. That couldn't have been cheap.
I think among the audience and among the allies themselves, there are certain games where it's like, oh, that's a Brad joint or a Brandon joint or whatever. No game is that more true for me than Huber and Life is Strange. It's like it's just, yeah,
It's like a flower seeing the
drama.
sun.
yeah.
Teen drama, his favorite.
Yeah. Like even more so than some other Huber games that he deeply loves. Not Shenmue though.
I am going to move on to Xbox right now, Ben, but I will make it up to you by
No.
actually playing SMT5 when it comes out.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
My job here is done.
Put that on the list.
Xbox had a showcase like they do. No one was in the crowd.
Right.
No more than 2 people took up the stage in any one given time.
But they had a stage.
No
which is
Forza,
nice.
no Forza cars were rolled out. Was that
That
the
is good.
Was that at Microsoft? Do you know? Was that at their theater? Was it just like in a corner of their theater? Didn't look like.
I doubt
the
it.
Microsoft
I
stage.
doubt it.
Huh.
I don't know where they did it, but I don't think that it was at the Microsoft Theater.
It had their kind of black glass neon line vibe that they like to do. And they did, worth noting, an extended showcase this morning, meaning June 17th, the day we were recording this podcast, that I have not seen.
I
but,
was not aware.
I
They
saw
had-
some of the info from that.
It was live when I was putting
Yeah.
this podcast together, so.
Hellblade 2 is a
we have
ways
more
away
details.
still. So
There you go.
Yeah, just really getting into production on Hellblade.
So
Before we get into
Wait.
the announcements, of which there were 16, how do we think about the whole Xbox and Bethesda sharing the same press conference? Sure. Sharing the same
I think
stage.
they did it well. I think that Bethesda has had a rough time keeping people's attention in past years. They've made some weird calls, particularly Rage 2 with the whole musical performance.
During the press conference
Yeah.
meeting, yeah.
Or the ESO.
I mean, they held my
They had the
attention, but
whole
for the wrong
like weird
reasons.
carnival vibe thing that one year.
That was
and-
the
Bethesda
worst.
Land or world.
And a lot of the times, like that year, like they had these themes that only made sense to the people that were physically there because they would have, something for attendees to go through. And everybody at home is just like, why?
Do you think Pete Hines had one of these ideas and Phil was like, no, we're not?
I hope
That
so.
would be
It's
great.
like-
It'd be so great for Bethesda to get shot
Just
down
hear
on
me out,
something
okay?
stupid.
All of the Bethesda franchises are babies, okay? And they're all in the nursery, and you go crib by crib, and you're like, no, we're done.
What I did think was hilarious in this whole thing is, they had Todd Howard come out and introduce Starfield, and they showed Starfield. And then they had Sarah Bond from Xbox come out to give the news that Starfield would be exclusive.
Yes.
They did not want to tell their fans themselves
Yep.
that
Don't make us do it.
Starfield is not going to be on PlayStation.
It's like when you need to fire somebody. It's like, I'll fire that guy for you. Do you want me to fire him for
Exactly,
you? Yes,
yeah.
please. I don't want to deal with that. Okay.
This was already obvious, but I think seeing it at E3 specifically, like having a visual representation of it, cemented it in a way where it's like, okay, Xbox owning Microsoft is just such a huge deal. Like, I think,
Bethesda, yeah.
or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
did I say Xbox owning Microsoft?
Yes.
I meant Microsoft owning Bethesda. I just misspoke. But yes, Microsoft owning Bethesda is such a huge deal, and I think, people are like, why are you not more excited for like Redfall or whatever? And it's like, I'm sure I will be excited once I know more.
Yeah.
But it's like, even the possibility of Redfall being insane, or even the possibility of Starfield being insane, like that could just not only blow up in Microsoft's favor, but even if those things kind of come out and don't make much impact, which I don't think is likely, but even if that was the case, it's like, oh, they still have Dishonored, Fallout, Elder Scrolls,
All
Doom,
of Doom on Game Pass, yeah.
Wolfenstein to fall back on, right? And so
Right.
it's just such a
Deep catalog.
stable of power. That's all.
I'm excited for Redfall. Holy cow! I want to see more of this game, and
Yeah, I
I'm
wanna see more of it
completely
too.
on
Well, I
board.
went to see the game.
This
but
was their
yes.
big, yeah. But I believe, I don't know, like I
Yeah.
see what Arcane has
Yeah,
done. I
they're
see
good.
how that style could potentially translate to this. You know, I
Yeah.
think this will look a little bit more like Dishonored than
I
it
do
does.
feel
the
that as long as it
CG
took us
prettiness.
to actually finally see Deathloop, it's like, all right, I'm just get ready for the long ride.
sure.
Jones, it's just like Outer Worlds 2, right? I really enjoyed Outer Worlds 1, but it's like I just can't get excited about this at this point. Like, I'm sure there will be a moment, whether it's like gameplay or just understanding more of the central concepts or whatever. Like, I'll get there, but not quite
I'll get
there yet.
excited when it doesn't feel like it's 3 years away.
Yeah, because I saw somebody say, like, oh, you were really excited for the Plague Tale sequel, but you didn't show that same excitement for Redfall. And it's like, well, yeah, because I'm already attached to the world and the characters, and I have an inkling of where the story is going to go. Like, I have more to latch onto there
Yeah.
than, you know.
Nothing about the game itself, but like the Outer Worlds 2 trailer, I thought was pretty funny. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, it was very
Watching
funny.
watching it
For
a
a
second
funny,
time,
yeah.
it's solid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
for a
very
dumb
funny.
joke trailer, like they did a good job.
I think Outer Worlds is
Because a
funny.
lot of those dumb joke trailers take a long time with their dumb jokes, where a lot of the things the narrator was saying was actively happening like in the moment, you know, and I think was backed up by like they make the lens flare joke, and they make that joke while you're traveling through a very pretty planet that probably cost a lot of money to put that together. So it's one thing if it was just kind of like 2D animation, some titles thrown in. It's like, no, this cost some money. This is a pretty good teaser, and I think. Not something you should take seriously, you know, for many reasons. Obviously, the script, you know, actively tells you not to. But
Their Grounded trailers have been funny as well. Because I don't remember if it was last year or 2019, but they had the one if it's like, if you want to see the most anticipated game, wait for Cyberpunk.
yeah,
And obviously, you know, that turned out differently than expected. But
I mean, just to touch on Grounded pretty quick, like I thought the tone in that entire trailer was fantastic.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
the
it's
thing
good.
no one asked for, this giant spider, like the features people do, like sitting. You'd be surprised. A lot of people want to sit. Definitely had the vibe that, you know, echoes like all we do is work on this game. We're trying to get you updates as fast as we possibly can. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff like the Contraband, which I'm extremely excited about. Just a cinematic teaser. You know, co-op, Avalanche, like those are all things that really excite me. And I'm excited for, I feel like a lot of Avalanche games have been rushed. I've had a lot of fun with them, but like I was just enjoying, I think I was like watching the end credits of Just Cause 3 and Just Cause 4 like announced a preview event. And I was like, wait, what? Like that game came out so fast. And then you get into it and you see like the trees kind of loading and clicking and it's like, okay, maybe take a little time, you know, with the next title. So them working on a new IP for a new gen, I have high hopes. Age of Empires 4, same situation. It's like exciting, but didn't really see anything.
We saw a little bit of that game.
Of the actual game,
Yeah.
kind of in engine. Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, this is true. Forza Horizon 5 though
yeah, Forza Horizon 5 had a great
great.
showing.
looks
Great.
really good.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the most impressive natural environments I've seen
Yes.
running on console.
Yes.
Yeah, the palm trees.
Which makes sense.
As someone who grew up around palm trees is like, holy crap.
But for Horizon instead of Forza Motorsport, was that did you see that coming or?
Does
that make sense
I
after the
didn't
fact?
really. Because they showed Forza Motorsport last year, I really expected that to be the thing to show up and for them to hold on Horizon until Motorsport, you know, came out essentially, you know, and so it's interesting because they sort of broken the pattern that it used to be. Forza Motorsport just came out every other year. And then they got Horizon to fill in the opposite years. And now that's been, you know, a lot more time since Forza Horizon 4 and a lot more time since Forza Motorsport 7. So it's weird to see that, hey, Horizon is going to come out and the next Motorsport still isn't ready and we still don't really know what it is or what it might do differently this time around. At the same time, like, both of those games got to build a lot of car models.
Yeah.
Like I'm curious how scalable that is.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of work for a new gen.
I imagine you would probably build that stuff from the ground up, but Stuff that pretty, I don't know how you make it. That game looks very, very pretty. Sea of Thieves, partnering with Disney.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
June
This is
22nd.
crazy.
This was great as well.
It was a grand surprise that seems so obvious at the same time. Not necessarily obvious, but easy. Like it makes sense. Like those two things fit. You didn't have to change up Jack's design too much to get him
Sea
into
of
that
Thieves
world.
isn't crazy serious. Yeah.
The
But-
surprise to me isn't so much that they're doing it, but that they got to. That like
Yes.
Disney allowed it,
Yeah.
kind of.
And the cutscenes I love from
Right.
You've spent a lot of time in Sea of Thieves. Like I don't recall
There
cutscenes
aren't-
alone this many cutscenes for
Yeah,
anything.
most
An
story
epic story
stuff-
adventure, I think they said in the trailer.
Most story stuff is just given to you through text and yeah.
Also free and soon.
Yeah.
Free and soon.
Good vibes for Sea of Thieves. Atomic Heart.
Funnily enough, people are saying, I guess IGN and other places have been covering this game for months, and we just missed it.
No, I knew what it was.
You knew it?
Yeah.
I did not.
I mean, it's just been kicking around for a very long time, and so it's like one of those things that you're like, oh, that looks cool, and then you kind of forget about it, and then after a while it bubbles back up, and you're like, yeah, still looks cool.
So this is from Mundfish, which did Soviet Luna Park VR, which is not on Steam anymore. This has been delisted from Steam. And so people are speculating, like, I guess that's this now? Like, it looks like, you watch the old trailers, and it looks like a lot of those elements were repurposed for this. But a very crazy, I forgot about this. I went back and revisited it. It was like, oh, right.
It was hard
The
for
weird
things to
with the-
really
the
stick
lady with
even
the
when you were
squiggly
watching
things
it.
in her
It's
head.
like, whoa, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
No date.
I really liked the trailer, and I liked the music choice that they did for it, but I showed that trailer to my wife, and she's never critical about things, and she was like, that was a bad trailer. Not that the game doesn't look good, but she was just like, that was a bad trailer. Poor trailer.
Poor trailer. Any Slime Rancher fans?
Never
Anybody
played it.
lining up
I
for?
We
tried.
did a stream one time, and it just didn't click with me.
I had the same experience. I was like, I'm going to love this, and I played it, and I just didn't get into it, but it's one of those things I would love to give another chance. Yeah.
A lot of squiggling in that game, man.
Yeah.
Woof.
Squiggles.
Just watched that trailer again this afternoon. And
It's super popular, though. A lot of people love it.
nothing
Yeah.
in that game is not moving.
It's definitely one of those games that kind of took over socially.
Shredders. I'll give it a shot.
I
sure.
am kind of into that.
Yeah.
I feel
wanna
bad I
play
wasn't
that.
more excited about
I'm kinda
Shredders when
into
it
that.
happened, but
I like that. It seems a little more simmy, I guess.
Yes,
not super
more
arcadey.
grounded, yeah.
yes.
I'm into that.
What's the thing about SSX is like most snowboarding games are that
Yeah.
are from a realistic approach. If
We
not,
just don't
like
get many anymore.
we don't. So I will take Shredders.
Yeah,
if
hell
Shredders
yeah.
is all I'm going to get. Also, one of my favorite launch dates. Quote: We have a good feeling about December 2021.
Loved that.
That is a solid release date.
As somebody who was not really interested in it at all previously, I thought Riders Republic kind of had a good showing.
Yes.
I think that
The first person bike stuff. I was
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah.
I was just going to write that
That
off
looked fun.
entirely, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that looks kind of fun, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I think there's a lot of build up and like mountain biking is a thing now. Like you've got like Lonely Mountains Downhill
Yeah.
came out and I really enjoyed that game and it's doing pretty well. The Descenders is doing really well and like now we got a lot of
there's always three.
always three now. Riders
always
Republic
three.
was more competitive, yeah.
I get this. It's interesting with Ubisoft because like they clearly have a very strong extreme sports passion. You know, like between Trials and Steep and them following up with this. I hope this becomes a franchise for this team
Me
because
too.
it feels like they really want it to. Like
Me
it
too.
feels like they're like, okay, Steep was too focused. Let's try to just widen this net as much as we possibly can.
That is-
fingers crossed.
That is the funny thing to me because they keep trying it and it feels like they keep failing. I don't know if they do, but then they just try it again. And I really appreciate that in Ubisoft that they don't quit on esports or extreme sports.
Yeah, I don't think that they've necessarily failed, but
Yeah, they probably do fine.
yeah, I just don't think they've broken out of
Right.
that group of people that enjoy those games. They also before Steep they had the Shaun White
Correct.
a couple
Right,
gens
right.
back.
Has Ubisoft ever taken a crack at skateboarding? I can't think of a single.
Shaun White did a skateboarding game too. Yeah,
Oh,
He does do both. So
okay.
Replaced.
oh yeah, Huber's really into this.
Replaced.
Yep.
This game looks incredible.
Yeah,
so this
that
is
one
this
looks
is the pixel-based dystopian cyberpunk platformer.
Yeah.
It was one of the, you were kind of like on a boat or something during combat. It was like lots of swiveling and climbing and the pixel environment with 3D environment in the background. Just
Yes.
It's tough because we saw like a lot of independent games. So it's really interesting to me to get into Phil's head and the executives at Xbox and be like this, like
Which ones
the moment
go
they
in
see
the
the
show,
gameplay,
yeah.
like, holy cow! But it really does, visually really does stand out. As does
Sorry,
Somerville.
I might be getting them mixed up. Is Replace the one where you use platforms in combat?
That's the Tetris kind of one, right?
Yes.
Oh,
no,
then
Replaced is
that's
side
Loot
scrolling
River.
like dark.
Yeah.
Okay, Loot River
cyberpunk,
also
lots of
looks
strong
amazing.
neon.
Yes. Replace sounds familiar, and I feel like I was like, yes, during.
It's gonna
the
get
thing.
tougher, Ben. This is
Yeah,
the-
Replace
I
it.
need to
Yeah.
rewatch that trailer.
Replaced
Loot
has
River,
the-
I love that concept.
Replaced is the one of the pixel art where there are people walking on the z-axis and ahead
Yeah.
of you, and then the buildings are 3D
Lots
models.
of
I need to
planes,
rewatch
lots of
the
people.
trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Need to
looks
rewatch E3 'cause there's too much stuff. Somerville. From Chris Olsen, who's is a name I'm not familiar with, but this is a collaboration with Dino Patti, an ex-CEO and co-founder of Playdead.
Yeah.
And this is this family this is one where like the guy had a dog and then the dog vanished and the dog came back in a later shot. I was like, oh, thank
This
goodness.
game, this looked really heavy.
And you have the family in the living room and like the alien makes a noise in
Yeah,
the room.
it
Kids like, what?
visually shares a lot with Inside.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's interesting to learn after the fact. It's like, oh, that's why there's somebody from the Inside team.
Party Animals, which I could have sworn was
I played that a long time ago on Steam, I think. There was like a demo for it.
demo for Party Animals.
Yeah, that's something people have said. It's been out on PC for quite a while.
We all thought it was Gang Beasts.
Gotcha. Okay. From Recreate Games. Recreate Games, and Source Technologies publishing that. And Fallout 76 is getting some DLC. Steel Rain, based on the Brotherhood of Steel. Fallout 76 has its issues, but I do love the Brotherhood of Steel. It looks like you have to get to make a fun decision in that.
Right.
Yeah, I was checking out the Wastelanders update, I don't know, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and it's definitely improved. I didn't get to play as much of it as I wanted to, but I want to go back, give it a spin. I love Fallout a lot. So want to see how much has changed.
And they're launching expeditions with the Pit is getting an expedition next year. And that was everything that was announced. We talked about Starfield a little bit. I don't know if you wanted to
I mean, there's not much to talk about.
touch on that. I was surprised. I was not. Maybe that was just me, lowering my expectations as far as it could possibly go. But
I was surprised.
when I saw both Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield, I was like, "God, cool. See you next decade." I'm not even, not planning on seeing that
I
soon.
mean, I feel like we saw Starfield years ago, like 3 years ago or something.
Weren't they hinting that they were going to show Starfield?
I
Yeah.
missed those
Yeah,
hints.
yeah,
Yeah.
they definitely hinted at
Yeah,
it.
and-
The image that they put for the conference
that's it?
And
was very much a Starfield
I,
nod.
I think that's what tripped me up a little bit is it's like, oh, you're hinting at that. I just think I expected
More?
more.
Yes.
If you're
Right.
going to go as far as to say, like, yeah, hey, this is going to be
I was
there.
surprised we got a date for a game a year and a half away.
Yeah.
I was surprised
wow.
we got a date, and a little surprised we didn't see, like Ben was saying, actual like gameplay, because it was just kind of a little cinematic.
It's like in-engine
I mean,
stuff.
very interested, of course.
oh yeah,
but-
I'm all in.
Yeah, there was so much focus on that spaceship. It's like, well, I hope this is a significant part of the game, or it's just kind of a weird waste of time. I don't know.
Touched on Halo Infinite a little bit. Saw a lot more multiplayer than we saw of the campaign. I could see them being. It's tough, like you were saying, because the stuff we've seen from multiplayer looks good. It's just
Well,
Campaign, big
holy cow,
mystery.
it's been a long time, and
It's not even just that we saw a cutscene for the campaign. It is what they showed in that cutscene for the campaign, and Cortana has been a mess for a little bit of a time, and it just feels like they keep trying to force this element or almost recycle it, but not really, in a way that does not inspire confidence. And of course, maybe in the context of the narrative itself, it'll be great, but I don't know. I did not. The actual trailer itself did not inspire confidence.
shout out to the patron who left a comment for Love and Respect that was like, "I like Cortana."
Oh, I love Cortana.
No, I mean
That's why
all
I'm
of the stuff that's been
concerned.
happening
Oh.
in 4 and 5 and all that,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Some more Battlefield 2042. Saw less of Far Cry 6 than I was expecting. Oh no, that snuck in there from.
In the Xbox conference, the Far Cry stuff was all right. Some of this,
Yeah, during Ubisoft is when
Ubisoft,
they-
there was nearly nothing. Yeah.
Saw the Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl campfire conversation was absolutely wonderful and a wonderful way to introduce various parts of that game. I thought that was very well done.
Yes.
Psychonauts 2 looks great.
Yeah.
Dude, Okay, just PSA. PSA to anyone listening. If you have not played Psychonauts, it is a masterpiece. I do not say that lightly.
Yeah.
It is absolutely wonderful. You still have some time before 2 comes out. Go and play through 1. It is captivating on every level. It has a spectacularly creative world. It is hilarious. The gameplay is just relentlessly refreshing and new. They're constantly changing it up. Like, it is a masterpiece.
2 months you got to play Psychonauts.
Well,
1.
I'm gonna play it soon because I bought it.
Good.
Better be good.
I swear.
It's bizarre. It's
I
on Game
swear.
Pass,
Pass, right?
It's
You didn't need to buy
a
it.
truly
What do
bizarre
you mean?
world.
I bought it a while ago.
It's on
I just
Game
haven't
Pass.
played it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had it on Steam forever too, but I've only played like the first level or 2.
Yeah, it definitely, like, I enjoy the first level, but I also think it gets much better as it goes on, too.
Isla Uden Chronicle,
Ah!
100 Heroes. Gotta
Yeah.
wait 2 years for that, but you get a Uden Chronicle Rising action
Yeah.
RPG next year.
Cool.
Let
You
it
got a
cook.
brief shot and a couple screenshots. Yeah, definitely.
Let it cook. Love Sweet Coden. Shout out.
Shout out.
Among Us is getting the update on June 15th. Are we still down to see Among Us and Fall Guys and stuff like that in presentations like this, or are we kind of
until
Yeah.
the
At least
hype
it's
dies
quick.
down,
it
yeah.
seems like.
sure?
I'm over it.
Okay, good.
But
All right.
if they keep adding near costumes for Fall Guys, that could get me.
The Shroom and Doom update is the official update coming to Grounded. They're adding achievements. Again, we joked about that was a fun trailer. We talked recently about Blackwood and Elder Scrolls Online, which I wasn't sure if they were going to get any airtime during that Xbox press conference. They did. We're getting Deadlands this fall, the Series X and S update. Also saw 12 Minutes, The Ascent, Flight Simulator, Top Gun crossover.
It's always so fascinating, those like silent successes that you don't hear about in like the general gaming press too often, but are just secretly doing pretty well, like ESO or Warframe or any number of things that I'm not listing. It's just interesting how gaming has evolved like that, where like just because you're not hearing about something doesn't mean it doesn't have super plugged in communities that are giving it so much support.
And whether I'm interested in an announcement during E3, Ben, or not, or any really like big events, I do like that feeling. I do like when PSO2 came over. It was like,
absolutely.
neat. It's kind of nice, like feeling this excitement, whether there's a game that I'm going to check out or not. Like feeling that, sensing that community grow. Seeing more people check out something.
And it's interesting because I feel like Game Pass specifically enables those types of games to catch in a bigger audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus games and games gold, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Just opens up the doors.
Hades coming to Xbox on
Yay.
August 13th. Diablo 2 Resurrection
Yay.
on September 23rd, which is a
Yeah.
game I forgot I'm probably going to play
Those
all the way
redone
through.
cutscenes. Hey.
Oh, look at this. The entire Yakuza series is now Game Pass. Look at that.
Most of it already was, but now like
But now,
Dragon.
yeah.
Now,
is-
Like a
The
Dragon.
circle is now
Yeah.
complete.
Don't skip.
30 Bethesda games,
Let's
too.
well,
Don't skip any.
Actually, that's a funny, and because they say entire Yakuza series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Entire Yakuza series ain't even out in the U.S.
That's a good point.
Oh, because...
Ishin.
We don't have
Dead
Ishin.
Souls.
stuff,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
There's
Dead
I
Souls?
think there's multiple PS. No, we have Dead Souls.
We got Dead Souls, but I don't think Dead Souls is on Game Pass. is
No,
it?
no.
No.
Dead Souls is locked to PS3, baby.
Yeah. So there
I-
is.
I'm
that
almost-
that's not a true statement.
I'm almost positive it's not on PS now, but it might be. But I'm pretty sure it is locked to PS3.
Nice try, Xbox.
Yeah.
Caught you.
There was a PSP.
Yeah, I think there's multiple PSP. I think there's 2 of them.
Multiple?
I think
Oh
there's
my
2 of
God.
them. I'm not sure. They were not that long ago. They were talking about bringing Ishin over, and it's like, yeah, do it.
Do it, please.
I guess they just meant the mainline ones.
Yeah, well, damn it, we need all of them.
Mm-hmm.
The
Lost
definitions.
Judgment, though.
Definitions this E3.
Lost Judgment.
Take that.
I will.
And now, a word from our sponsors. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like taking a call on a train or a bus on speaker for everyone to hear. Don't be that person. Although I know that person. People who are like extremely loud, who are just like, I'm just going to watch my show. Definitely don't want to be that person. I remember editing in college, and I would go to the editing bay, and no one would wear headphones. So I would listen to like 10 different projects being edited at the same time. Don't be that person. Why does anyone need a VPN? Internet service providers like Comcast or Verizon know every single website you visit. ISPs can sell this information to ad companies and tech giants who then use your data to target you. Why use ExpressVPN? They create a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so people can't peep on your online activity. You just fire up the app, click one button. It's rated #1 by CNET, Wired, and The Verge. It works on phones, laptops, even routers, so everyone who shares your Wi-Fi can be protected. We here at Easy Allies have used this on more than one occasion to access things on a particular service that is not specific to our region, to access other regions. So that has had a direct business application here at Easy Allies, but obviously your security is important as well. So use ExpressVPN for what you wish. Securing your online activity today by visiting expressvpn.com/allies today. That's ExpressVPN, ExpressVPN.com/allies. You can get an extra 3 months for free. ExpressVPN.com/allies. HelloFresh has made a difference in my life, in my family life. And what's nice is now we can bring the in-laws into it. Got the mother-in-law in town. Thank you, mother-in-law. Thank you, father-in-law, for watching my 2-year-old while I was at E3. But it's nice, to have the mother-in-law come into town. Like, what are we eating tonight? We're like, we're eating this. And oh, look at that. I'm going to hang out with my 2-year-old, and you can make that. And so the kitchen has been very busy preparing all sorts of things from HelloFresh with the in-laws in town. HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal planning and grocery trips so you can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in just about 30 minutes. Try HelloFresh's quick and easy meals, 10 to 20 minute dinners, breakfast on the go, and more easy options perfect for your busy lifestyle. Enjoy a wide variety of easy, delicious options for all 3 meals a day, plus every snack and special treat in between within the HelloFresh market. Get better value. HelloFresh is 28% cheaper than shopping at your local grocery store and 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal without sacrificing the quality. At the end of the day, and we have discussed at-home meals often, my wife and I, it's still the #1 thing is her just like, I don't have to think about what, if I know I want to go with the prepared meals and we have one available, I know what we're eating for dinner tonight. Go to HelloFresh.com/12allies and use code 12allies for 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/12allies and use code 12allies. Finally, this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or is preventing you from achieving your goals? BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in just under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. There's a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime, send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. As much as I love therapy, that is an awkward room because everybody there is there to discuss something that you probably don't want to discuss with the other people in the room. The gentle nod as I sit down and pull out my phone and play Galaxy of Heroes in my therapist's office, and so don't have to do that anymore. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Go to BetterHelp.com/allies to get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/allies to get 10% off of your first month of BetterHelp. And if you are a patron of Easy Allies, thank you. Ubisoft did Ubisoft Forward again, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, okay? Okay? Spent a lot of time on Nintendo and Xbox. Let's see if we can just let's just get as fast, let's get to the Wholesome Direct as fast as we possibly can. Because in order to get through Ubisoft, we got to talk about things like Avatar.
Do we?
Oh, right.
Did we? Did we just do
Avatar look good.
Frontiers of Pandora. I don't know what I learned from that video other than it's Avatar.
It's happening and it looks good.
It's open world.
Because there's a little bit of combat there. There's bows and arrows versus machine guns. Like there is some tactical gameplay being suggested, but like just watching it like 2 hours ago, I'm like, I don't know. Kind of neat to have when the one Na'vi jumps off and then like the the winged creature meets the Na'vi in the air. It's like, okay, that'll be neat if we see that. But
is exactly where I'm at.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, this is the first anything we've seen of Avatar. We've seen a lot of like people in weird getups, like in a giant water tank waving, but like nothing really specifically because so much of this is done in post. So it's interesting. I wonder how much Cameron was involved in this. He didn't show up or say anything during the presentation.
Thank goodness. You remember the last time that happened.
Yes. So I'm not saying I specifically want that. Maybe they'll cut it down more for a digital event. But yeah, I was surprised that during a Ubisoft event, and specifically for this new game, is the first time we kind of crack the seal on like this new world of
Well,
Avatar.
what was funny is because some of the comments afterwards are like, way to show up, for a 12-year-old movie. And like, do you not know there's more movies coming?
Yeah, if this is not. If you get a sense of dread watching that, then
When this comes out, it'll
find
be,
a cave
it'll be primed.
as fast as you can.
What
and
is
get
there,
in
like
there.
7 more movies or something?
4?
Okay.
Some
There's 4
insane
more movies.
amount.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's a lot of investment for something.
Maybe 3. I remember it was just one more than I thought. I was like, oh, he's gonna do a trilogy, and it's like, no, there's more.
Man.
But I'm ready to believe. I'm ready to be excited. That was just not the announcement I was expecting. But it did look good. Do you think was totally CG? You think that's maybe?
I'd have to watch it
In-engine
again.
tease.
It felt like it was an engine when it first started,
Yeah.
but I'd have to look again.
Saw a little bit more of Mario and Rabbids. Oh no, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope was announced.
Yeah.
Which again is kind of one of those things you evaluate Ubisoft, and it's like Avatar and Mario and Rabbids. I think were their 2 big moments. Neither of which is really theirs. Like Mario is not their franchise.
Right.
Avatar is not their franchise.
I don't
so
know that I fully agree with that.
I just felt a little bad that I was like, oh, like the big thing we take away from Ubisoft is a partnership and not necessarily them being like, hey, look what we're doing with Sam Fisher. Look what we're doing. With
I'm personally pretty interested in Extraction.
Rainbow Six, which kicked off the show. That showed a lot better
Yeah.
than I was expecting. It's actually interesting with the tease for Redfall. We saw more of Back for Blood, and now this. There's a lot of got to get my monster terminology straight. We're gonna be playing a lot of these games at the same time. It'd be like, it's an exploder. I mean a burster. I mean a like.
Yeah.
I just think the mechanics of Siege are so rich, but I've had some people who casually play that game online take it way too seriously. I've had some bad experiences with the online community, but the idea of teaming up with you and Brad and Huber or whoever,
Yes.
while getting the mechanics of Siege, and I love the operators of Siege in a co-op setting that's fully fleshed out, because they have done a co-op mode in Siege before, and it was fun. I don't know, just very interested.
14 minutes they spent on that. Yeah, they really gave it its due. Like we were saying, it didn't happen with a lot of releases we saw at E3 2021. I think the only thing that makes me nervous is from the brief time I've spent with Rainbow Six Siege, like you can't fake those controls. You can't just like press a button and make sure, hope for the best. Like you have to really know those classes. You have to really know not only what controls, operate what skills, but when to use them and on what surface. And,
Presumably, though, during a co-op experience, you can take it at your own pace a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you,
Yes.
Yeah. You
so
want to just
the-
get that one headshot and they're like, all right, well, I'm out for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Good
Right.
luck, everybody.
No, not only that, your operator will get taken away and you have to save them.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is just seemingly a super cool idea that has a lot of stakes to it.
Do you think that could get old, just in terms of like when you're like, oh, I don't want to have to do that? Like maybe there's like a currency or something you can spend to like not have to.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like though it will happen less as you get better.
Sure.
So just maybe naturally it won't be as much.
Yeah,
of
maybe
a
it won't
issue.
even be that big of like a deal doing it. I think about like Left 4 Dead or Warhammer. It's just like you just find them real quick and help them out.
Yeah,
I think
mean,
it'll be a little more involved, but maybe it won't be like super intense or anything.
Yeah, and I also appreciate getting forced out of your comfort zone, right? So, like, it's like, oh, well, I've always been playing this operator and I can't anymore, so let me try this person. And I think that will also just naturally make you better at the game.
Far Cry 6 had a kind of throwaway trailer that felt like almost like another version of the first time we would have been introduced to Giancarlo Esposito's character.
Yeah.
But we did get the Become a Villain series, which are
Oh, boy.
season pass
right.
DLC episodes. Also Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, just cause.
Yeah, just why?
Just 'cause,
I was kind of waiting for some other text to appear on screen, but they're like, no, we just threw Blood Dragon in there. Like, okay. 3 season pass DLC episodes, separate based on the villains from Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, and Far Cry 5. Not named, not really kind of sure how long those are going to be or how those are going to work. And
Well, but there's this whole weird mental aspect of it, and
kinda like the heroes are turning back on the villains. And I'm not super jazzed about the Far Cry 5 villain. But it's an interesting
I
announcement.
think their approach is a little gross here. And let me justify that because I think the idea of doing DLC with the Far Cry villains is cool. I think there's a lot of creative potential there. But the way that they're presenting it specifically at this E3, where it's like, we're going to show you that our DLC is going to involve these characters, we're not really going to tell you anything. Also, maybe pre-order that Ultimate Edition where you get the season pass. It just it feels like they're just trying to entice you without really divulging what is going to be in there, and I don't love that.
The other thing, the sort of like in the moment way of presenting all that is strange because they had obviously reserved the gameplay for Xbox.
Yeah.
And so at the time, it's like you saw a cutscene for Far Cry 6, and then you saw, here's the stuff that you'll get after you play through Far Cry 6, but you didn't get actually Far Cry 6 in between there. So it's just, it feels like strange timing to be pumping up the DLC, even if it is something a little bit more unique.
Yeah.
And then the Blood Dragon thing is, we don't, what?
It's just, it's in there.
We've got Blood Dragon already.
You just get it.
Yeah.
If they want to increase the value of that season pass, they'll throw in some other Far Cry games here and there. And just
Yeah, I
out of
guess.
nowhere.
Here's
You already bought
Primal.
it? Yeah. Just gonna say. Rocksmith Plus,
I actually thought this was really cool.
subscription based.
Interesting,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't help escape the feeling of like, I hope this does well for you because you're very excited about that. But this seems like a very specific. It's like how I feel about like car commercials sometimes. I'm like, well, I'm not buying a car today, so I don't care. And it's like this.
Yeah, I think
this could
Rocksmith
be
has always
incredibly
had that
full
vibe,
featured,
yeah.
but if I'm not learning guitar,
It's funny because I've actually been interested in purchasing guitar and learning again. I used to play back in high school, and I was like, oh, I might actually do this. And they made a case for it. I mean, they really broke it down, and it's like, here's all the things, here are all the different ways that you can learn. If you're struggling in specific things, here's how you can overcome that. It seems like I've not used this service myself. Maybe it's garbage, but like, it seems like they're really putting a tremendous amount of thought into, like, we really want to help you get better regardless of where you're at.
I also think it's pretty, I don't know if commendable is the right word, but it's neat to me that they are continuing this franchise that when it started just felt like they were reacting to Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero has come and gone, and attempts to revive it have not gone well. And they're like, hey, Rocksmith, it's doing what we want it to do. We're going to keep working on it. We're going to try to reinvent it for, a new generation and do something different and continue to, have that resource essentially for people to use.
and you were saying with MMOs, Ben, that like are still going strong enough to support themselves, but maybe not something we necessarily hear about that much. Be nice 2-3 years from now, to just report back from Ubisoft. Maybe in like a pre-show or something. They're like, oh, by the way, Rocksmith Plus has been rocking and rolling this whole time, doing well enough to support itself.
It's trying, like, it's not, it doesn't feel like it's just trying to be Guitar Hero Rock Band at all. It feels like it's trying to solve a problem and serve a purpose.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling. Not going to bump Ubisoft up above Xbox or Nintendo, but that was
absolutely
Right.
not even
and we've
close.
talked about we talked about Riders Republic already. I have high hopes for that one. More hopes than I had for Steep. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is getting Siege of Paris. The Viking Age thing was a little more detailed than we were expecting compared to the past. The history lesson, you can actually follow different characters.
Yeah, that's cool.
Watchdog Legion gets Bloodline on July 6th. Just Dance 22.
That's taken so long. That
gets a new
Watchdog
song.
Legion
Yeah.
DLC, that should have been February.
Announced
What's
like
happening?
a long time ago. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's been announced. It's like people were pre-ordering the game based on that.
right.
Yeah, it's bad.
Todrick Hall coming to Just Dance 2022. That's on November 4th. You knew you were going to see that. Crossplay coming to Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, cool.
June 30th for PC
Very cool.
Stadia and Luna. The only time I will say that word during this podcast episode. And all other platforms sometime in 2022. And they're getting a new Defender soon. Or they announced the new Defender, or teased it for Rainbow Six Siege. Ghost Recon Breakpoint 20th anniversary updates are on the way. Quote, stay tuned, Ghosts. It's like, well, thanks for that.
Okay.
Got to see a little portion of Mythic Quest and Werewolf Within,
God.
which wasn't huge, but I'm glad they said based on a game that you've never heard of before. And the Turtles are coming to Brawlhalla.
Yeah, no,
I
definitely,
think that's actually
definitely
out now.
lower than Xbox and Nintendo.
Potentially lower than that, based on the things that you are excited about. Square Enix presents
Oh boy.
some hits or some misses. Kicking it off with 17 minutes of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Surprising.
Yeah, weird thing to say, like, because I think during the reactions I was like, oh, I'm happy they're actually showing it and going into this detail, and that's true. Think they might have overdone it on retrospect.
Didn't need that much.
Yeah, I think it was maybe a little too long, because I was showing some E3 stuff to my wife, and she was like, "Oh, this is really cool," and then she was like, "Yeah, this is way too long. Like, I get it." Yeah.
How do you feel about the members? Rocket to me is the one that's I think going to take the longest to take the one voice out and put the other one in.
Peter was the one that kind of felt the most dissonant to me for some reason.
His hair goes a long way. I think the hair is
Yeah.
very, very, very different. Except for that Gamora, a little more no nonsense Gamora.
Yeah, she looked dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's strange because I'm not super excited for this. I haven't seen anything that's exactly impressed me. The one thing that I think does sort of seem to separate it a bit more from just like your general like third-person action game is the amount of choices they kept making throughout this demo. Like it had like a bit of like a Telltale game kind of vibe going with it.
Yes, I totally agree. I thought that was super cool, and I was happy to see it. But I don't know if it was Huber or somebody that brought this up, and it's totally true. It's like, how far does that go? It's not like you can like
Right.
kill Groot,
Does that
right?
even matter?
Right.
yeah.
I wish it could. I wish it could go like
Everyone's probably going to argue
Yeah.
at the end of the day anyway.
But it makes me, think again. This is from the Deus Ex developers, and you think about just the kind of level design
Yeah.
that they are so good at, and creating like all these different alternate paths and different ways to get through the level. And so it makes me imagine. I don't know if they're gonna do this, if they're gonna pull this off, but it makes me imagine that potentially the same level could vary in how you play through it based on who's in your party. And so it's like, okay, at this point they showed tossing Rocket across this gap, but if you don't do that, well then how do you get across? What are the alternatives? And I think that could potentially be something worth exploring.
And at the very least, just kind of showing how stressful Peter's life is, just in being confronted with these possibilities all the time,
Right.
just with a team that doesn't necessarily work logically, like when they need to. And a lot of those I kind of chuckled at. I don't think it's necessarily going to like steer the game in very drastic different directions.
Right.
But like you said, with the team working on it, they have a precedent for it. So who knows?
Something that was a little bit concerning is watching the combat. I didn't walk away from that going like, that definitely feels good. I'm like, it could go either way.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Avengers combat,
Yeah, it definitely reminded
which
me
is
of
okay, I
Avengers.
guess,
Yeah,
but
yeah, not my favorite.
sure, yeah.
Was Marvel's Avengers and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, was this the same meeting? Just one of these games took a little bit longer than the other, or were these separate meetings? Like they Marvel came into Square and they got Avengers rolling, and then liked the progress of that, and then worked on Guardians, or what do we think?
Probably. I guess they'd be a year away from each other in release, pretty much.
Well, this thing has been rumored for quite a while.
Yeah.
So
Same meeting.
It's a good meeting. Not many of these games we were playing right before we recorded this podcast, but we were playing Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin.
Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions on this game.
Yeah, I'm hearing all sorts of crazy conflicting things. It was
Yeah.
like a lot of people were mad at this game for a while because the demo didn't work. But then
Yeah.
a lot of people are excited about the game now.
It
We were
didn't
kind
work
of
for a long time.
We were kind of confused originally because it's like a retelling of Final Fantasy 1 or like a callback to Final Fantasy 1, but like
no,
very
they just
different
came
gameplay.
out saying like, no, it is not.
The characters
It's
from
definite-
one are in
it's a
this.
it seemed like they were almost emphasizing like, no, this is a very new thing.
Yeah.
But it's called Final Fantasy Origins for some reason.
Yeah.
Origin.
Sell it.
Origin?
Origin.
That
John
trailer-
Origin.
not great.
No, not good.
I
I've been
would go so far as to say bad.
Yeah, yes. In fact, you should go that far. I've gone on a roller coaster with this. I just beat the final boss last night, and I my thought has been like this. It's been like going up, just very slowly going up, where the more I dig into the combat, the more I understand it, the more I play around with things, I really do think there is something there. Specifically on a gameplay level, I think there is a depth there and kind of a satisfaction to the mechanics that sort of does this in between where you don't need to be incredibly precise like you would in a Sekiro, but it doesn't feel like a too easy hack and slash dumbed down Souls game. It's kind of doing its own thing, and it's clearly inspired by Nioh, but it's not taking every cue from Nioh. It just doesn't feel like Nioh in a different skin. But as much as I can praise the gameplay and the mechanics and some of the things that they're doing with loot, like class affinity, boy, it doesn't look good, and it's having performance problems. And it's kind of shocking that this is a PS5 game because it certainly doesn't look like it. That said, it's not coming out until next year.
Yeah.
So who knows what could change? But
Alpha, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's cross-gen.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you watch the trailer and you're like, this doesn't look great, and you boot it up and it doesn't do it
It's
any
like
favors.
so contrasty and so dark that
Yeah.
you like. There were times where I couldn't tell if I was like, if there was more to a room that I was in. You know, I was just like, what am I looking at?
That's an uncomfortably appropriate segue into Babylon's Fall.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh.
Also
Uncomfortable.
looks
yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Doesn't
Which
look
also
good.
doesn't look good in the most traditional sense of the word look. It literally just kind of,
Yeah.
it looks like it's all like melting around each other. I don't know. It just,
I was thinking about Deep Down a lot when I was watching this trailer, and I was like, this kind of reminds me of Deep Down. But
In what way?
just like this nature of going through these dungeons only with a group of people. I was like, it's giving me Deep Down vibes. Obviously, it doesn't play the same as Deep Down, but I was like, this is Square Enix's Deep Down for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still holding out hope simply because Platinum has done so much right by me. But yeah, no, it wasn't a strong showing. I don't think it convinced anybody that wasn't already way into Platinum games. And like even the one thing that you would expect, right, is like, oh man, that combat's gonna blow you away. It super didn't. And then for them to be like, yeah, live service game, it's just like, you know, that could go either way.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's nothing that they showed instilled confidence. And I think because Babylon's Fall was such an ambiguous thing before, that's really what they needed. Giving it the benefit of the doubt, maybe more than I should, but yeah, not instilling confidence.
and for live service games, the most important thing is, you know, it's got to be fun. That loop has to be, you know,
Right.
addicting. That loop has to be satisfying. And Platinum makes very fun games that are fun to play,
Right.
but it's just tough to. It's just, I think it's a great example of something that we would have played, probably. You know, like we would have gotten our hands on.
When they get a good
had a
amount
very
of
different
time
report.
to make a game,
Yeah.
they can make a good game.
Absolutely. Some of the best.
Also, questionable graphics, at least just for me, was the Life is Strange Remastered Collection. Did the wipe where they were like, ta-da! It was like, okay.
It's so funny that you say that because Huber was like,
It looks better, but
Huber was like, it looks so much better. And I was like, I wanted to agree with Huber. And I'm like, does it? I just couldn't. I couldn't.
I think
quite
we
commit,
needed,
but I wanted to.
Yeah, I think we need. I mean, it's a slightly better version of two brilliant games. So it's like, it's not. Yeah, it's. I'm not going to complain about it too much. I think we needed to see someone talking in the old version and someone talking in the new version, because like I could tell there was like a little bit of lip movement in one remastered shot. I was like, oh, there we go. That's where I'm seeing a lot of the specific details, and a little bit more of True Colors, which I think is just.
Don't you see any more of that
Yes,
game,
looks great all around. Don't want to spoil too many elements, but like, really seems. And this might be something just mentally, Bloodworth, you've already kind of processed because of how familiar you are with the series and how much you could maybe glean from where they're going with True Colors. But like, seems like all of the kind of emotional strain that these characters have dealt with their powers seems just so much more acute in this game. Like, she's really focusing on like, she's just right on the verge of like, should I use this or not? You know?
I gotta say, I'm a little on the fence on this because the power of empathy just feels silly to say.
Power of empathy.
Just
Well, especially when it's really just telekinesis.
right.
She was doing that in
telepathy.
telepathy.
Thoughts,
Yeah.
She can
Imagine-
just hear what people are thinking.
Like telling a friend that you have this big secret to reveal, and you just go, I have the power of empathy.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's like I hope all of us have this power.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Maybe a lot of people playing the game will
Clearly-
discover.
Clearly, most people do not.
I refuse to talk about Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster at any given length until we know what the hell that is. So I'll just move on.
It's not looking good, Brandon.
They're straight playing with my emotions with that
Not
one.
looking good.
Marvel's Avengers has a fun roadmap. We got to see,
Black
War
Panther.
of Wakanda cutscene, and
Yeah, but
Cosmic
like,
Cube looks a little more involved than I thought it was going to be, but we can move on.
I mean, considering the state of Avengers or lack of a state of Avengers, like just wasn't enough, man.
That train has already left the station. Man.
Okay.
I mean, I think literally as far as 2021 is concerned, like there's no changes. There's nothing they can just sprinkle on top of it. They got to stay the course. Saw the opening movie of Legend of Mana. It's got an update on some mobile games. Hitman Sniper, The Shadows.
We can
which
update
I'll
some mobile
definitely
games
check it out.
in silence.
Near Reincarnation, Final
Yeah.
Fantasy Brave Exvius, War of the Visions, and First Soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I want to try it. Yeah.
You're going to try it out at
Yeah, I'm
least.
going to try it.
Okay, good.
Zero expectations.
Oh, everyone's gonna try it.
Yeah.
We can spend a very comfortably brief amount of time talking about the Capcom Showcase,
Do we have to?
which
We can go through that fast.
DLC is being made by popular demand
Woo! That
for Resident Evil Village.
white text on a black background.
Yeah.
Woo, most exciting
But
part of that whole
each line
presentation.
revealed itself. They put a little
Budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do that with a GIF.
You could-
That takes a good 10 seconds in Premiere,
I would have thought by popular demand would have been the sales of Resident Evil 7. I think that was the demand. It was we already bought all the DLC from that other game you did that was also good, so we'll probably buy the next one. But they were waiting to see if we really liked Village.
No, the
now it's actually
Capcom thing is
happening.
so funny because people were understandably disappointing because they didn't show very much. But it's like, yes, that's true. But also, I'm excited for all of these games. So
Sure.
I figured this was going to pretty much be it. So I don't know. It was about in line with what I thought.
It's just
yeah.
funny that it feels like they didn't have a plan, and I've heard people say this, like a rumor, that they didn't have a plan to do Resident Evil Village DLC, and now they're like, oh, you guys want some? Oh, okay. Resident Evil 7 had so much DLC.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I mean, that the way that they presented it definitely lends evidence to that.
It is kind of a bummer to watch something that we're talking about, Monster Hunter and Resident Evil, and just kind of be tuned out a little bit. Yeah, because these are franchises that we're very excited about. Stories 2, something we're very much looking forward to. Palamute DLC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some crossover stuff with Rise happening with Story 2.
I mean, what's funny is like even that announcement is muted. Like they said they were going to cross over already.
Right.
So it's like,
Hella
yeah.
muted.
Oh! And the great Ace Attorney Chronicles looks jolly as hell.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes.
It's funny because they did go into a deep dive, which is cool, but the minutia with which they broke down the mechanics was maybe not necessary.
I will tell you, I zoned out super hard during that.
Yeah.
It's really funny, like, what does it say about us, I guess, as, like, fans of this stuff, where, like, they told us exactly what we were going to get right out the gate, and we were still
Yeah.
just like, well, there's got to be there's one more thing,
Here-
right?
here's
there has
what
to be a reason for them to do this press conference, right?
Here's what it is, Isla. People are hungry. You got new
Yeah,
consoles
yeah.
out. You had real E3 going for a year. You had a pretty underwhelming E3, and so like people can't help. We're animals.
Yeah.
You know, we're animals and we operate on instinct. And so when it happens, you just push your chips forward and hope for the best. And sometimes, you leave Vegas and you're able to eat the next day.
But
Sometimes
Yeah.
you're bussing the tables.
But I think a part of it goes to, what Brandon has kind of tried to set up here and talking about announcements versus just updates. And even like when we decide, a lot of times when we decide to schedule reactions, like the reason you want to show up for a conference is for an announcement.
Yeah.
You don't just want a demo of a game that you already know is coming. Like you want to know the thing you haven't talked about yet. Tell me about that.
Right.
And so yes, there are games that we're going to want to see more of, but if that's all you've got, if all you're going to tell us is things that we know about, then it's like, okay.
It's also weird because, if you combine, I feel like the Direct, but especially the Treehouse, really, Monster Hunter Stories 2 had a better showing at Nintendo. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, they did. They gave
Far
They
Cry,
got
had,
it-
Far
their
Cry
own-
had a better showing during Xbox.
yeah,
It's
it's
strange,
very
yeah.
strange.
All
Yeah,
that stuff. Which I could see, them not really worrying about that. It's like I don't care if our thing was good compared to whatever, as long as people buy Far Cry 6.
Right.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Ilo, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say I was trying to think of the hypest announcement because obviously we saw Elden Ring and we saw Breath of the Wild, so those are great. But hypest announcement might have been Metal Slug Tactics or Mario Rabbids. What is
Yeah,
this
those were
E3?
both very
Those
hype.
are the two hypest.
yeah.
A company that knows that we're animals and we come to E3 to feed is Devolver, which
Yep.
has always been pretty
Yeah.
entertaining. I remember I was very
Feed on chili
pessimistic when I
dogs.
saw the first Devolver wacky show, which was 4 years ago now. When was it? 4 or 5 years ago? Where they
Something
first
like
they
that, yeah.
started on this
5
path.
maybe?
Yeah, I was overly pessimistic as well, and people weirdly hold it over us, and it's no, my opinion has changed.
I
I
love.
was all in from the word go. I was loving it.
I still think they're kind of boring, so you can be mad at me.
They have boring parts.
Yeah.
They have parts. When I saw that they were going to do the joke of circling around the office in the same direction, and then that shot continued for another 60 seconds, I was like, okay, I could, I'm all caught up on the joke. Let's move
Yeah.
on to the next announcement.
Hold
But
up. I do like that they do their own thing, though. I think that's cool. And everyone, 2 people copied them this year.
Yeah.
And none of them did it as well as them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
limited
Kudos.
run showcase, which I think in the interest of time we will skip over, which we did look at. Shout out to Plumber. Plumbers don't wear ties.
Looks like 2017 was their first one. The
Got it.
Devolver.
This is a solid lineup of games.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow Warrior 3, which we knew about. We got gameplay trailer 3. That is looking great. A fun thing to open with. Trek to Yomi.
Yeah.
Samurai side-scrolling
Yeah, this game
action
looks cool.
game platformer. In quotes, actual gameplay, nothing pre-rendered. There's such a power to that. There's something that's angry almost. It's if anybody said this is pre-rendered, they're lying. But I got to admit, there were a couple shots in there that I did think were some hair movements, some stuff that I thought might have been live action. Nope. That game looks great. Phantom Abyss, which we saw in many other places. Asynchronous multiplayer.
Looks cool.
Shout out to them popping that up all over the place. Wizard with a gun.
This looks kind of fun.
Remember these VV looking dudes?
Yeah.
With remember there's the guy in the cage and the guy has rifle out
I
pointing
think I
at him.
missed the Wizard with a Gun
and,
trailer.
multiplayer survival sandbox adventure. A lot of crafting
Lot of
going
mouthful.
on.
Looks cool, though.
Some top-down action.
I just realized.
Very much looking forward to Shadow Warrior 3.
I just realized I know the guy who's making Trek to Yomi. That's
Nice.
funny.
Dude, I feel like you know every indie
Yeah.
dev.
Oh, that's my
I
friend.
know a decent number of them.
Death's Door.
Yeah. Bird
Yeah.
Souls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even after E3, what is it about this that stands out? Because I know it stood out at the time, but just do you still have the same excitement level? Or do you still have the same anticipation?
Yeah, I mean, the gameplay looked really fast and fluid and smooth, and
Yeah.
I get to be a bird, and you don't get to do that very often. The world looked kind
with
of
a
dark
scythe.
and fucked up. I'm in.
Yeah, there's just a lot of agility to the combat that I think really
Mm-hmm.
stands out. And particularly for those kind of top-down games, you don't always get, some that can be
Right.
kind of slow or basic sometimes, and this has a lot going for it.
I just imagine anyone who put 200 hours into Hades and then sees this and it's oh yeah, it just seems a lot of those skills that I developed
Right.
with my dodging.
Yeah, Hades is a good comparison.
My number one game from this was Inscription. Holy cow! Which apparently this wasn't the announcement we knew about. Inscription. Do you remember this? Remember Inscription? This is a inky black card-based Odyssey. So this is kind of I'm way into retro spooky PS1 graphic looking games. We talked about Walk. This is you were in a cabin or something. All of your opponents you're playing this card game with are very shadowed.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Okay, this
there's
game.
a
like a-
board that you're moving a
Yeah,
piece
there's a board
across.
game part of to it. Yeah.
And there's just all sorts of weird trickery. It looks like all the cards are like animals, but there was one part where he was holding a card and the card said, "Play along for now." And it's what the heck is going on there? And there's just a lot of puzzle solving within the actual space. You step away from the card game at some point and explore the environment. Just looks extremely unsettling and spooky. And yeah, I'm very curious to check that out. Demon Throttle, physical only.
Shadow drop
I
physical
wanna
only,
play
yeah.
This game looks
Ikari
cool.
Warriors top-down action versus
I know,
demons.
I can't, it's sold out immediately, I think.
Probably tough to get. That's the lesson of E3. And Devolver Tumble Time mobile game that is not out yet.
That was weird.
He said it's happening sometime. That seems, Shadow Drop that didn't happen maybe last minute?
Yeah, it feels
Wasn't ready?
like maybe they just didn't get it ready in time.
If any of you get that date on Devolver Tumble Time, let me know. The PC Gaming Show had 13 games.
Was it?
Announced 13 games announced.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, there's a lot more
Um,
games there,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah, Naraka Blade Point. Shout out to Naraka Blade Point. I think there were more times that we saw what was the Phantom Abyss than we saw Naraka Blade Point, but Naraka Blade Point was working hard. Fallen Aces was previously announced, but I think universally you guys fell in love with that one.
Yeah.
That was originally announced in September of 2020.
Looked fantastic.
But that's New Blood's latest. I heard a rumor that there was going to be a demo. Looked for it. No demo. Excited to check out that game when that happens. But the 13 announcements. Stop me if any of these resonate for you strongly. Dodgeball Academia.
This was cool, actually.
You did.
Looked like an
We're getting that
RPG
this
doll
year.
with
Yeah,
dodgeball
you did,
game.
yep.
Cartoony sports RPG about a dodgeball rookie.
Yeah.
Sometime later this year. Not a lot of specific dates, just years for the announcements in PC Gaming Show. Next, Space Rebels.
I don't remember.
You
what this
design,
was.
build, and launch rockets. There was like a YouTube component
Yes,
to
yes,
this.
yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, that
Oh
got
man,
weird.
I think perhaps the incisive commentary on YouTube/influencer culture for this could be good. It seemed like it had a good biting attitude. Don't know. It could be not that. Could be very awkward and cringy, but we'll see.
War Tales, which I downloaded the demo for but have not checked out yet. Open world tactical RPG. Fantasy,
Oh yeah,
like
this game was cool.
yes.
Yeah.
You have like an overworld where you are extremely tiny. You're just looking at your party and they're just going
Moving
along the
across,
world.
yeah.
And tactical combat when you actually get into Scrappin' 2021. Ixion. This is the one that started at like a concert, and then later at the end of the concert, the moon exploded, and everybody at the concert freaked out.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
This one looked cool.
You guide a space
so
station
strange.
to find a new home for humanity, and we're getting that next year. So not a lot of specific gameplay details. Far, capital F, capital A, capital R. Changing Tides, the sequel to Far Lone Sails. Atmospheric vehicle adventure, which is a big old submarine that's going from left to right, and you can stop off every now and then. From what I could tell, the difference between Changing Tides is a specific shot where we saw the protagonist swim underground, or dive under the waves to get some elements and bring them back up. So, always a fan of indie games. It's just like there's a big thing going in one direction, and you have to make sure it doesn't fall apart. Silt, Isla. Silt?
Scary ass, like
Yeah.
Salt and Sanctuary 2D underwater bullshit.
Underwater, baby! Where you possess beings around you to solve some puzzles and stuff like that, and otherwise
Yeah.
explore dark water. Have fun, everybody. Have fun playing that. I'm going to play that one.
Lord Dark
Fish
Water.
souls, yeah.
So anti-Jones.
Early 2022. Not just 2022, early. Lakeburg Legacies. I saw somebody online call this Crusader Kings meets The Sims, which I like. You breed them like
Oh, yeah,
rabbits.
yeah.
You make a big old fantasy family.
Yeah, I think I made a similar comment while reacting. Yeah.
That one looked fun.
2022. Also in 2022, Solstice, as in Dark Solstice. Fantasy action RPG. You play as two sisters and you just chop dudes up. A lot of jumping around, slashing. Pioneer, not Pioneer, Pioneer. Thank you, Google. Pioneer. Another entry in the Russian open world apocalyptic shooter saga of the 2020s.
Always 3.
There's
There's
more
like
than three.
more than
7 of
three,
those.
yeah.
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 Always 20.
The Tunguska game, too.
Got some fun 2D, 3D stuff. Tinykin, where you are exploring Earth as a very small person, and you recruit these
Yes.
Tinykins, these little small creatures.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
kind of
yes.
Pikmin-ish.
So it's
The-
2D characters. And
Oh,
a
yeah,
3D
this was
Aesthetically, this really stood out. I
Yeah.
believe it's on Kickstarter, but yeah, very interested.
This is a game where they picked the right first shot of gameplay. First shot of gameplay is him running towards the camera. He's got all these little dudes bouncing around him, and it's just one of those shots that the game all of a sudden kind of crystallizes, like in just a couple seconds.
And we found out that shrinking down is apparently Huber's fetish because he was like super.
I did
oh
know
my
that.
god, he said a quote.
He's
like,
mentioned it a few
shrinking
times.
down is one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
It's like, okay, dude, love that. All right.
I have heard that from him before.
Insane human.
but it's just like, how many things does that apply to?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many favorite things does he have? Yeah.
Sacrifier with a capital F, also 2D, 3D, kind of a Uden Chronicle vibes, kind of Octopath Traveler vibes. Quote, modern RPG adventure with a classic twist, but music by Motoi Sakuraba, which you, at the
Yeah.
time, that stood out for blood.
A modern thing. with a
Golden
classic
Sun,
thing?
Mario Golf. Yeah.
Cool.
Mecha Jammer, top-down pixel cyberpunk action RPG, coming soon. No date on that. And finally, Citizen Sleeper, I don't know how you play this game. This is a role-playing game, role-playing in the ruins of interplanetary capitalism.
Sign me up.
Which sound, Isla, that sounds like the way you would describe
Again?
something. Yeah, I know. Like, if I had a nickel, lots of talking and slot filling. There was a lot of like, I'm going to take this icon and put it in this empty slot, and I was like, how many of those do you get? What's going on? Lots of people around the space station.
Oh, I
talking
remember.
about-
The character art in this one's really cool.
Yeah, hard to figure out exactly what's going on there. And sponsored by MechWarrior 5 or MechWarrior.
Oh yeah.
Oh
over
yeah.
the place.
Frankie.
Dude, I think it got
Frankie
to me.
was
I
in the
really
mech.
want to play MechWarrior 5. I need to. I keep meaning to do it. I need to install MechWarrior 5 and the original Stalker.
Good sponsor because it's a very PC. I think of PC.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
think
yeah,
of
yeah.
MechWarrior.
Yeah.
I played
yeah.
a lot of MechWarrior as a kid on my PC.
Finally, the Wholesome Direct, which was pretty early on in the
Yeah.
entire festivities.
And
And-
was
and
very
not-
good.
Officially a part of E3.
Yeah, Day of
They-
the Devs.
They
was also very
competed
Right.
with E3.
Wholesome Direct is, I've seen Wholesome Direct before, and obviously I like wholesome things, but like something about this year, man, just this, I thought they did a really good job.
Indies stole E3.
We need to lock that into the calendar. And there were lots of updates on things, Skateboard unpacking, played that unpacking demo. Oh boy.
Skateboard looks significantly better, which
Oh,
is
cool.
encouraging.
Better.
Yeah.
There were kind of rumblings of
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
control issues and weird.
Since
glitches
we're
and
not going to
stuff.
talk about it much, there's not really a need to. But I also thought the Freedom Games showcase, small indie publisher that I didn't know much about, I thought that was really well done. You know, like just the fact that like they didn't just showcase the games, but they showcase the people making the games and why they're doing what they're doing, and there's a little bit of the story behind them, and they kept it all really
Oh, yeah,
balanced
that was
and
good.
well done. And it's like, okay, here's a couple minutes of the person, here's a couple minutes of the actual game, next person.
And was that the one that had the dog?
Yeah,
yeah.
shelter
Yeah, so we
game.
learned a little about each person before we went in. Yeah, little slice of life, which I imagine everyone's lives have been very interesting in the last 13, 14 months. So yeah, it was nice to just kind of get a sense of what the final stretch of all of these games coming out was like. But that again touches on I think just kind of the indie showcase vibe of this whole E3, which
Right.
makes me a little nervous that it'd be fun if E3 comes back into the form that we all enjoyed for so many years, but like at the same time I don't want like Sony to be like, all right, we're back at E3, get out of the way, limited run showcase, and just a lot of these things don't happen because they're like, well, Sony's already taken that date, or some other Konami's doing a press conference again, or something happens where the indie companies.
Man, it almost felt like too much of a good thing in a weird way, where there would be so many games that I had never heard of before, these indie games that looked phenomenal, but like you were just shown so many new things at such a fast pace that it was
Right.
really hard to retain all of that. And it was like, I almost like, there's so much good stuff here and I'm very grateful to see it, but I almost wish it was spread out a little bit more.
Yeah, that's why I think Freedom Games actually stood out to me even more than Wholesome Direct, because Wholesome Direct had do you have a count?
I saw somebody was over 70.
Yeah.
I have 18 announcements.
Yeah. So it just, to me, particularly like when you're having so many different concepts, then things start to bleed together. Like how many times did we see cat games? How many times did we see frog
Right.
games? You know,
Right.
like
Right.
it's really
I'm
hard
still-
to separate things.
I'm still not sure which hot pot cooking game is which.
Yeah. Yep.
I think we'd heard about both of the cooking games. I don't think either one of those was officially announced.
Soup Pot and Hot Pot for one.
Okay,
Correct.
Those are
thank
two
you.
different
Hot Pot for
games.
one is out already. Soup Pot is not.
Okay.
If you want to check those out. But really, really quickly, the Wholesome Direct announcements of these 18 games. Bird Problems, a sitcom game about
Oh yeah,
bird
the
life.
sitcom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something just so bizarrely right up my alley, but a little to the left, where you're literally just like straightening.
Yeah. It's a therapy game. Just like,
That announced really well.
But then they had the unpacking and they had the other
Yeah.
like moving game. Yeah.
Behind the Frame, which we saw a couple times.
Oh
which I
my
think
gosh.
also
It
resonated
looks
really
so
well.
good.
This one
yeah.
was
Yeah, yeah.
so beautiful that
Yeah.
it absolutely sticks in the mind. Yeah.
is this the one with the old man, right?
The old
We're
man.
all-
The
we're
cat
all
jumping
sure he's
between
gonna
windows.
die.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and what a great trailer where I feel like there's still so much left to uncover, but they really did a fantastic job of getting you connected to the characters very quickly and showing you what it's going to be like to play that game with very few words, which was good. Well done.
Yokai Inn, slice of life game
Yeah.
inspired by Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing. Mythic Ocean, an underwater narrative adventure game, available now. You can go check it out. Talking with two gods, specifically, they're arguing under the waves. Kokopa's Atlas, a planet settler, kind of had Minecraft-y vibes, where you're a cat, you just land on a mysterious planet, explore, build, garden, etc. Button City, a low-poly adventure game about animals in an arcade, fighting to have their arcade not be closed down.
Yeah, that's neat looking.
Letters, a written adventure. Another thing, too, like games that are using like the power of words, where you have to learn the right word and then apply it.
Yeah.
Like, it messes with my brain because I feel we've seen already a couple of these. Maybe the most wholesome game in the entire thing. Walk with Yaya, where you take your
Yes.
grandmother on a walk after she had a bad fall.
yes.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Gecko Gods. You're just a puzzle game where you're a gecko
That one
crawling
looks
around.
cool, actually. I was into that one.
The
Gex.
colors are really
Yeah, that
neat.
one looks
Yeah.
cool.
Gex for modern era.
Yeah.
Witchy Life Story, narrative sim with very colorful comedic characters. 2022. Battle Cakes, turn-based RPG where you play as a cupcake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looked delightful.
There's a
Pass-
demo for that too, I think.
Passepartout 2, The Lost Artist, sequel to the 2017 title, where I guess you draw. It's like an MS Paint thing where you draw just really bad portraits and people buy them. Sally, an airship adventure. Very short teaser. A girl just goes into a garden and then walks into a class and then pans out of the window and she's in a big airship.
Oh,
Right.
right. Yeah.
Rainbow Billy, The Curse of the Leviathan. 2.5D adventure RPG where you're coloring the world
Yeah, the
as
world's
you run
black
around.
and white and you color it in.
And they wrapped up with Lottle Knot, an underwater cleanup adventure game where you have little creature friends, the Lottles. And that had a Kickstarter that launched with that, which you can check out. Again,
Was
none
it,
of this includes updates.
Was Garden Story
crazy games.
announced in this one?
Garden Story was announced a while ago. We've got
Oh,
one.
Yeah,
okay.
Garden
I
Story is
remember
I
that.
know. I was waiting for Garden
Yeah.
Story as well because I was like, yeah, that seems pretty dope.
Popped up a couple times.
Got it.
Beasts of Moravia Island, which is we've talked about before on this
Yeah,
podcast.
which is out now.
Whoo, breathe.
And as Blood said, there was more. Mm-hmm. There was more that happened during that E3. A lot of you may have potentially seen announcements and events that we did not react to or have not seen ourselves, but we watched as much of it and talked about as much of it as we possibly could.
didn't get the No More Heroes 3 gameplay
Yeah.
in there either. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
because it somehow was not part of the Direct or the Treehouse.
Also, shout out to Unbeatable, one that just
Yeah.
immediately captivated me and looks so cool.
So
Need
yeah,
to play the demo.
any corrections for next week? That's like, you forgot this game. I know. I'm sure.
We know.
I'm sure there's many things could be slipping through the cracks.
No corrections.
It is time for Love and Respect.
Love
and respect.
Feels good to do it. All at the same time. From Kristen G. Rosario. Hey there, allies. First-time caller, long-time listener. So basically my question is this. Is there an obscure fact about how and or why you play one of your favorite game genres? I ask because of the recent release of Virtua Fighter 5 on the PS4. It made me think about an obscure fact about why I play fighting games. I love fighting games to death, but what most people don't know about me is that I actually prefer playing them single-player. While I do have fun playing with friends in fighting games, as well as once in a blue moon playing multiplayer online when the salt is not flowing through me, I actually have fun tackling a fighting game single-player aspect more than anything. Running through each and every character's arcade story mode, as well as tackling every other single-player mode option and bonus content available. It's one of the reasons I love franchises like Tekken and Smash so much. I feel a lot more satisfied with what a fighting game has delivered through that instead of just its multiplayer aspect. So is there an obscure fact about why you love one of your favorite genres?
I
that people
need a
might
little
not
bit of
know?
clarity for the question. Are you saying like an unusual reason for why you play a certain genre,
Yeah.
or just that you play a certain genre in an unusual way?
Something we might not know that you that might not be so apparent from just an outward perspective. You know, like me searching for towers in open world games is a very well-known fact about why I love open world games. I would dig for a little more obscurity. Questions like this can be tough too because it's like, what have we not said about ourselves?
Right.
I guess I have. Yeah, I mean, I've said
5
this.
years of Easy Allies.
I've said this before, but adventure games fall into a weird sort of hole for me because, I've loved video games for a long time, and it was always a struggle to get my dad to play games, but I remember specifically playing multiple adventure games with him, and we were
Yes.
just having the time of our lives. We would play like Full Throttle and Siberia, and The Secret Island of Dr. Brain, and that sort of thing. And I've never been able to enjoy adventure games in the same way since. Like, I've definitely played them, but it's always a genre I feel like I have at arm's length because I'm not playing them with my dad. Yeah.
Similarly, my dad and I used to play like the Myst style, like click through the cards kind of games together a lot, like Myst and Riven and Seventh Guest and stuff. So that definitely instilled an ongoing love in those for me.
Amanda hit me with a real zinger of a question. I think it was like 6 months ago or something, where I was talking about some horror movie that was coming up, or a horror video game or something, or a horror story, that I was fascinated with. And it reminds me of something like Bloodborne, where it was like the fantasy aspect of Souls wasn't enough, to get me, to try to get better at that genre. And it really took this gothic horror, thing that was like, oh my God, I've loved everything about this aesthetic. I have to see this world. I don't care how many, if I am dying all the way, I'm running through it. I have to see, I have to explore this environment. And I mentioned that with her, and Amanda was like, yeah, where does that darkness come from that you're like really into gothic stuff? And I was like, that's a good question. Like, I don't have a reason why I just,
Castlevania.
why I just navigate towards, gargoyles and lightning and rain. And I don't know, I dig it a lot. Maybe I'll explore that someday. I'll get better help on the phone. Get to the bottom of it.
Just you saying gargoyles puts the theme song for the show Gargoyles.
Oh, I do have a quick another one. Back when Yakuza 3 was a new release on the PS3, this was at a time where almost no one knew what Yakuza was in the West. And I had no experience with the series, and my boss at the local video game, the mom and pop video game shop that I worked at, was like, we were really good friends. He's like, you have to play this. And he strong-armed me into it. And I wouldn't be into Yakuza. Like, I wouldn't have the appreciation for it if he didn't convince me to play it. So,
Okay. Little known fact. F-Zero was my brother's game.
Yeah, there we go.
I had a Super Nintendo. He's the one that bought F-Zero.
There we go.
And I was playing his copy of that game.
Were you getting the good scores? Were you getting the good times? Was there a little bit of
yeah, I
animosity
mean,
there?
I played it more than him. There's like a
nice.
6.5 year gap between us,
Nice.
so he's older. But yeah.
From Umair Safar, what are some games you probably wouldn't have played if not for the pandemic? I don't think I would have given 13 Sentinels a chance if I didn't have anything else to do or play at the time. Do you have any? No shade towards 13 Sentinels. Do you have any similar games you wouldn't have given any thought to if you weren't
better
stuck
watch
at
it,
home?
mister. You're on thin ice.
Didn't have anything else to do.
I can't. The problem is I can't relate to that mentality because I feel like the whole time I've worked more than any other
Oh yeah,
year.
we were all just stoked we had
I've had a
jobs.
harder
Yeah.
time fitting time to play games in than any other time in my life.
There's two that spring to mind, and they're both kind of similar, at least in terms of theme. I don't think I would have played through all of Days Gone were it not for the pandemic and my wife being home a lot more and like her being really into it. And I'm glad I did. I really enjoyed that game. Also, gave Dying Light another chance, and didn't really love Dying Light when I gave it a spin when it first came out, but I've been kind of picking away at it for a while now, and I'm like, oh no, this there's really something here. This is pretty cool. So yeah.
I've had high hopes the whole time for Dying Light 2 because that was
Yeah.
like the vibe I had during Dying Light, where I was like, make a sequel to this,
Yeah.
and all of this will hopefully come together. I for sure made a pandemic purchase that I would not have made otherwise. I bought a game that was a collection. There was 3 of my favorite video games of all time. The PC version, which I have never owned, of all 3 titles for $10. Disney Infinity, baby.
Oh man.
Saw it on Steam for $10.
It's one of
all
those
3
answers where it's like I should have known.
all 3, but it's all built in. So it's like there's no base, there's no anything. Like all the play sets are in there, all this stuff. Obviously, there's no online component. I can't log into any servers that don't exist anymore and download stuff. But all the figures come packaged in there. And so yeah, there was a couple hours. I jumped into each one and then deleted them from my PC a couple days ago when I was getting ready for demo stuff. I was just like, all right, it's time.
Why was
But,
my reaction to that like similar to someone telling me they like got back off the wagon or
Right.
something? It's just like I'm like,
He's
Jonesy,
at it
no!
again. From Zach Wojnar, do you accessorize your controllers? I never liked the DualShock 4. My thumbs would always slide off the analog sticks, which is a problem I never had with the PS1, PS2, or PS3 controllers. In my quest for comfort, I put rubber thumb grips on the sticks, and I used similar rubber bits on my DualSense. On another front, I absolutely love the PS4 back button attachment. I fully believe that I had the best possible experience with Final Fantasy VII Remake because I had the attack buttons, square and triangle, mapped to the back buttons, allowing me full camera control with my right thumb while kicking all sorts of butt with my middle fingers on the attack buttons. I use the word buttons 3 times in that sentence, but I swear I'm actually a good writer. Anyway, I'm honestly a little nervous at the prospect of playing the PS5 version without a back button attachment. Do you use any of those funky add-ons or accessories or even third-party controllers controllers. I really like the Hori wired mini gamepad. It's just a cozy little controller and my favorite way to play games like Mortal Kombat 11 and Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Good plugs.
Not really. I used like a Super Nintendo controller for PC. Like I was playing Chrono Trigger on PC. I had like a 8-bit or a Super Nintendo controller I could plug in.
Nice.
Was it a Hori controller?
But maybe I can't remember. But I hated
8-bit
third-party
dough?
controllers growing up. I never liked them. The friend that came over always got that kind of stuff. But no, I never added anything either to them. No enhancements.
Yeah, I've never done any kind of physical enhancements like that. I've had a couple of weird controllers, but mostly like back in the day, like the
like
NES.
N64, I had
The NES, I had the kind of fight stick looking controller that really didn't matter, and the weird NES Max, which was like rather than a D-pad, it was like a circle so that you could more easily go in like the diagonal directions.
Oh, right.
And then
I had
what'd you have?
I had the PlayStation 1 glove. Do you remember that?
Oh man.
Horrible.
I did not know there's a PS1 version of that.
I've gotten kind of particular about mice, gaming mice.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was at an event. I don't know if it was a Worlds event or something, but they had a Corsair mouse, and I was like, "Oh, this like the groove that it has on the left hand side, it just like fits my hand so naturally." And then I bought one, and then recently for my birthday, I bought another one, and it's like I'll never go back. It just there's just something about the feel of that mouse that is so good. And I don't know if this really counts, but the Xbox Elite 2 controller just sort of feels like a better modified version of, an Xbox One or Xbox Series X controller. I cannot stand back pedals though on controllers. Totally cool if other people like them, but just never.
Just kind of tough to.
Yeah. Well, it's just I've
Feels
never
weird.
I've never felt the need for them, and B I don't like the feel. Yeah, it's weird.
I've never had to modify like a game controller, but yeah, definitely like PC stuff. Like I have a Corsair keyboard and I have a HOTAS for Elite Dangerous and stuff. But Omar's hands are like my hands are the right size for PlayStation controllers, I guess. But Omar always thought they were too small and like the analog sticks would like get all weird. So he would buy the little like caps for those and stuff. Yeah.
I can't stop laughing when I think about Huber with the chewed up palm playing
Oh,
Mario Party.
yeah.
Oh my god,
Just
man.
crying and grinding his hand on the controller. It's funny. It is time for bets. Next week's bet. Phantom Abyss. That is the Indiana Jones Tomb Raider-ish game where you die a lot. Launches next Tuesday, June 22nd. While we are recording next week's podcast on this laptop, I'm going to watch the top viewed stream on Twitch. How long from the second I click on that link until I see the player die? Ben Moore, what'd you bet?
I went back and forth on this one, but I'm going to say 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's a well thought out bet, I think. Brad Ellis.
I'm gonna do 2 minutes. First day, people are gonna suck. Learning.
Isla, what's your bet?
Me next? 1 minute 7 seconds.
Bloodworth.
13 seconds.
13 seconds. Okay.
Possible.
We tied, Brad. 2 minutes.
Oh, shit.
Okay. That was close to that.
Got the high.
We will see. This week's bet, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, launched the night we were recording the podcast last week, June 11th. I wanted to know, when we recorded this week, how many channels would be streaming any Ratchet & Clank game that was not Rift Apart for the PlayStation 5 on Twitch. Didn't want to take up too much time during the podcast. I did that. This was the very last thing I did in preparation for this podcast. I did it right before. I checked. Ratchet & Clank size matters. One person was streaming it. Let me get through the bets. Michael Huber bet 7. Michael Damiani bet 11. Isla Hink bet 1. Bloodworth bet 9, and I bet 42. One person was streaming Size Matters. One person was streaming Going Commando. 2 people were streaming Future Tools of Destruction. One person was streaming Future Crack in Time. One person was streaming Full Frontal Assault. 2 people were streaming Up Your Arsenal. And 29 people were streaming the 2016 Ratchet & Clank. I didn't count anymore because I had won by that point. Thank you, Ratchet & Clank from 2016. But I wasn't sure. Obviously, a lot of people are streaming Rift Apart. But so yeah, that gives me the win. Bringing our scores to Jovial Penguins 14.
Even lose a limb, an eyeball, bladder control.
Vociferous Beavers 12.
Nom 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 nom.
let me tell you about patreon.com/easyallies before we wrap up this podcast. Last week, you might have noticed that the episode was early. People who usually get this podcast on Sundays everybody got on Friday, the great Equalizer podcast, because we wanted all of that news to be relevant for people getting lots of news that weekend during E3. Also, the podcast would have gone up right in the middle of what
Xbox.
during
Yeah.
Xbox, which is not us showing up being like, that's Summer Game Fest, am I right? Wouldn't have really played very well. But every other week when we do the podcast for $5, you can get that podcast early. You can be a part of Love and Respect. If you have noticed, I sprinkled some Love and Respect comments throughout the podcast sometimes. Sometimes people submit games, which we have not done in 2 weeks, but we will do a game when one is, if one qualifies for the podcast, if I think it works. And in general, we are supported on Patreon, so those people at that $5 tier are supporting us tremendously, and many of them have supported us for a very long time and enjoy getting that podcast 2 days early. We have a shout-out tier on our Patreon, $250, our tip-top tier on our Patreon, and we have a bunch of people at the shout-out tier for the month of June. You were not on the podcast last week, but we can just do this thing now. I kick it off, and then we just do it.
Oh, okay.
Starts with me,
Down the line?
ends with Isla. That's how it goes.
Boom.
I can just roll right into this bit in future podcasts. Shout-out to Blue, Caleb Togi Crawford, Edsger, So I'm a Spider, So What, El Fanis, Ezdocal, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, Jesse Blue, and Nick. Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Forgot if we dragged it on.
Beautiful. You can drag it out as long as you want.
Okay.
Just like I'm dragging
Drag
out this
on, Dragoon.
podcast. Somebody's got to end this. Oh, it's me. I won. I get to end this podcast. I get to promote any Easy Allies video I'd like to promote. I get the final word on anything I disagreed with, want to reiterate, or just popped into my head. And I get to sign off with my trademark sign off. If you go to youtube.com/easyallies, you can see a lot of E3 stuff. Just go back. Go back during that the upcoming video. It might not even be in that top bar. You might have to go to uploads. Scroll down until you see a puppet. Click on that. Let me know what you think. You can reach out to me at Trailer Jones. It's definitely the biggest puppet content we have yet to release. Lots of big steps being made at Easy Allies, but that was one of them in 2021. But that was a lot of fun. I was very tired after I finally put that together, but haven't done anything creative like that for Easy Allies in a while, so I very much enjoyed putting that together and would appreciate your viewership. I don't know. I think it was great. I felt pretty good about E3 overall. Again, I just want to reiterate, I'm so stoked that I think a lot of indie games I'm taking to heart. Like, that was the information that I was searching for after E3, was just like what demos are out there, when is Fallen Aces coming out. It was interesting following with the show that I'm so used to checking out, these big AAA releases that everybody's, so interested in us getting impressions, to just kind of being an equal playing field with everybody and checking out all these free demos. It was a good time. Cheers.
Okay, Xbox owning Microsoft is just such a huge deal.
You could do that with a GIF.